Did we elect you our chair? I forget.
I know, that's what I forgot too.
No, you did.
We're on?
I think by default we
Okay,
nominated Kim
hello.
Ford, so.
Let's do that.
All right, welcome Litchfield to the Wednesday, August 30th meeting for the Economic Development Committee. We're going to call the meeting to order, and will we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Whoops, I'm throwing things, sorry. Thank you very much. Do you mind if we go around the room? We'll start here so the public knows who we are and what committee we're representing on this team.
Sure. Peter Ames, Chair, representing the Litchfield Recreation Commission.
Peter Plansky, representing the school board.
I'm Kimberly Queenan. I'm the Selectman's rep.
Jeremy Robitaille, representing the planning board.
Diane Plansky, representing the Conservation Commission.
Kim Kleiner, Town Administrator.
Great, thank you very much. Public input, do you want me to follow the same rule as the Board of Selectmen of 6:45, no earlier, or? Okay, so let me make a note of that, so after 6:45, we will open it up to public input. All right, so we only have 3 items on the agenda tonight. The first one will be to review of the master plan readings for the master plan chapters. There were Chapter 2, Population and Housing, Chapter 5, Transportation, Chapter 6, Economic Development, and Chapter 9, Community Design. So, I guess, do I want to turn over to you, or I can start, or, so, all right, I know it's hard, we probably should have put where the link was for, where the chapters were. If you're on the town website and you go to the departments and you pick Planning Board, if you scroll halfway down through the screen, you can see master plan chapters there. So actually, I'm not plugged in up there, but let's do that online if you're available to do that. So go to litchfieldnh.gov.
Did note there were very handy links embedded in the minutes.
Oh, there were. Okay, so you had the actual link to go there?
Yep.
Okay, good. And I know a couple of you tried to look at them on your phone. Oh, that had to be very tough to do.
Didn't work out so well.
Didn't work out well, but that's okay. We have major themes here, so we're just here to discuss each one. Population and housing was last done with the planning board in 2017. So remember, we had COVID kind of in there between and here as well, so we've had a little gap, right? So that's not too old, about 8 years old. Transportation was pretty recent with year 2020. Economic development was last done in 2002, and that's when the circumventional highway was still being planned over here in the southern end of town, so they built logic around that. Community design was recent in 2019. So if you had a chance to read them, you can see some things that really do jump out at you and how some of the chapters cross-reference and how some of them really could apply to this group as well, so we can review that. So that's what I'm saying. So do you want to do a specific chapter in order? It's up to you. I can go either way. Do you want, anybody want to go in a specific order of the chapters, or?
Might as well do what's on the agenda.
Okay, so we can do that. That's what I wrote here. Okay, let me go back to that. All right, population and housing. Let me go to that chapter for my notes. I'm actually going to pull it up on my screen because I couldn't print it out, so I had to just make my notes here. So just give me a second to pull that up. So if I'm saying, oh, go to this section, we'll know where we're looking. There it is. Town Hall. Planning Board. Just so you understand, and I know you all do because you're chairman, but the planning board will work on this, sometimes alone or in committees, on these master plan chapters. Then they go to a public hearing, and they come to the planning board, we have a public hearing. So a lot of this isn't warrant article, but the public's invited to come when we create these chapters, and then there's a public hearing. So we always refer, well, obviously the zoning laws are what we apply for the planning board, and these are a reference, but it is a voice from the public, right, because they help create it. So it's not really a law, but we always refer to our master plan chapters as that's a guide, okay? So that's what at least the public could weigh in. All right, so let's go to Chapter 2, Population and Housing. Does anybody want to make any general statements about it before we go in, or any observations they had? I have some too if when we get there.
And I was looking at the data that came through on that one email. It was really interesting about how many houses came in.
Yeah.
within the last 10 years, and 10 years before that, the huge increase we had, and the 10 years before that, the huge increase. So that kind of went against information that had been handed to me from other people. So I thought that was really interesting to see the actual amount of population growth and how it occurred and when.
So I think that was an exercise that the board asked for. Because when I first came here, that's what I heard too. We've had tremendous amount of growth in the last 10 years.
Right.
And so when you're looking in the chapter here that talks about housing, you can tell this data is matching that data because this data is pulling from the assessing system. So the assessing system for every property in the town has the year built. And when you pull that data, it's apparent that, most of the growth was in 10 years back, and then 10 years prior to that,
It was huge. It was unsustainable by the town, though, as well. So it's good that it slowed down.
And I wondered if that wasn't what prompted some of the chapters. So some of the chapters, even going back to like our initial vision and goals in chapter 1, talked about encouraging new building and a village center pattern. Is that talking about here?
It used to
In
be,
this center?
Route 3A was our original town center, but now with this complex here and with the population here, it was talk
The
of
old
changing
church, the
it
old
to be
fire
here.
department, the old with the
Yeah.
historical system.
So they're talking about moving the center to the center
The
of town.
visual center of town.
What we
to be
refer
here.
to as the center of town.
Yeah, so they sometimes say old center of town, and the new center of town is some of what we're hearing in there. And now that you bring up chapter 1, which ties in all of these chapters, sometimes we've updated master plan and we've realized chapter 1 wasn't updated, telling you about the new one, right? So
Right.
that, I hope you didn't go down that hole. So I will say this, if you read the chapters, if you go to the bottom of all the master plan chapters, there's a list of recommendations that came out of them. And it's good to see if we actually hit some of those recommendations. Not saying that that's going to be our recommendation the next 20 years from now, but at least it was good to see a summation of that. And you talked about the data from the databases you were pulling. It pulls census data. It pulls all kinds of data, wage data, right? So it's nice to see everything, a good picture come together, yeah. So I enjoyed that. So I don't know, do you want to talk about general observations? Do you want to just go by page if anybody found something exciting or questionable? But I think Diane was right. We kept hearing about the boom here. So, yeah.
Well, it did boom. It just
It
boomed.
boomed.
It boomed over 10 years ago.
The big thing I found about this chapter, which was frightening, and it always has been to me on the planning board, is build out. Because if you go to page 16, if you scroll down under section F, I actually quoted it. So build out is when you can no longer build anything in town based on your current zoning, because you've hit your tax base limit, right? You're pretty much. Which sets us up for a conservation issue, because we're fighting for land, the town will be fighting, and we don't want that. We want to grow together, so we have to have that conversation as well. So NRPC did a big study on 2 acres, continuous land, no big dump, water in the middle, or, if you had to have it continuous, and they gave statistics in here of what they thought would be built out, whether you had businesses or not. So I found that to be interesting, but it's something we have to do and keep an eye out, because our impact fees, everything's going to be related. So the bottom line is on page 16, if you read the bottom of the page, when population projections are viewed in conjunction with the town's estimated residential development potential, attention's warranted. So census data is telling us when we're going to be there. It's projecting, and we already know how much space we have available, and when they intersect, then we have to be a little more creative, right, as far as the town. So, and build out is shown in a couple of the chapters, so I just think we need to keep that in mind. It said here, under the current zoning total, and this is again 2017, not that old. Under the current zoning, total build-out of all residential land could see a total population of approximately 10,300 to 11,400 people in near the year 2040. All right, so just letting you
But I think we're behind.
We're still, I'm seeing
Currently
8,600,
behind, with the new stuff on the
8,300.
dock, I think it'll
Yeah,
catch
we've
back
got-
up
Yeah,
again.
we've got
100
housing
and-
complex.
It's not, so, but they projected 2020, 8,800 roughly.
Which is about where we
We're
are.
about 86, aren't we? I'm seeing about
We're darn
8,600.
close.
We're about 86.
Yeah.
But that can fluctuate, like you said. We
Correct.
have 3 big developments.
Correct. There's gonna be a few hundred more people.
BAE
Well, maybe
East
two
development
per
is
development, maybe 2 per
172.
unit.
Yes.
2.6 was
Well,
whatever
so-
statistic
Right.
they said.
I don't know.
How many
it's
units have
not
we
what
improved?
We're seeing, so.
300?
Oh, 300, yeah. so-
To,
And you're also seeing Reggie's.
yeah,
Yeah,
they're adding on the other end.
Right.
That's right up to this
But we were seeing
estimation pretty fast.
we're gonna,
Seeing a drop in building permits.
that's gonna come up in another
And we're
chapter.
seeing a drop in vehicle registrations. So 2 indicators of growth within your community.
Drop in registration.
Yeah, well, the way
So-
we,
And then
I
I'll
think there's other.
That's odd.
get to the worst.
I've registered less cars this year.
Remote work.
I've registered less of my cars this year.
Yeah, remote work is one. I think
go
car
buy
insurance,
more.
even though you don't
I'm
need it,
registering
I think
I
that's.
only have 3 out of 5.
I have
registered right now.
3,
The other 2
yeah.
aren't being used.
But we do
3 in our
have
house.
Dark Hole Farm, 50-something units.
60.
64.
And then we have,
62.
what's the other one, the manufactured homes down near the tree
Oh,
farm
right, those 2, yeah.
Yeah.
And then BAE,
and BAE. So
172.
Right.
you figure 2 per.
Pearson is,
Yeah,
is
two-
up in
two,
the
two and a
air,
half
depending
per
on how
roof.
that
Yeah, we
gets
got
built.
Pearson coming.
That's, depends on how that's getting built.
So another 600 people maybe,
Let's
just with
see.
that, right? If the 2.6
in the next 4 years.
probability.
Yeah, I would say next 4
In the next 4 years. So, maybe 150 a year for the next.
So we're up to
4 years in a
90-something
row.
hundred, right? So in NRPC, we have 2 representatives from our town, because we're less than
Kind of brings
10,000
us in-
people.
within that
But
600
as soon as we
that
hit
was happening.
10,000, we get another
When the
representative.
farm sold all that
I don't want
land.
to
That's when that, those big
threshold, but
growths
you know,
happened.
whatever, we're gonna.
Is when the farms sold off all their land. We raised the taxes on the farms. And when we did that, the farms sold off land. And that's how the subdivision, like next to Wilson's, that's where that came from. But a lot of the farmers sold off land, and that's where a lot of that growth happened.
That was a big part.
And the
of it.
multi-lay overlay, we gotta look at that. There's some things here, when we're allowing that to happen in the southern and northern part of town. It's not commercial land, it's residential,
But it's
that you really can.
multifamily.
Multifamily, you can do that. So
multifamily.
that, but again, we have to ask the public what they wanna do. It's not, but that could be looked at. Now, we do have that big chunk over there that was commercial, and it still is commercial at the southern part of town, on the right side. And then on the left side, you have kind of the Wilson's area, but they're both commercial, even though there's a farm there.
It's
It is-
agricultural.
No, Wilson's Farms is, it's in the commercial zone. It just happens to be a farm on it.
Well, let's change that. So
that
it's
No,
not.
the landowner's deed says something else. But anyway, but just be aware that could be true. So the multi-lay stuff is currently not on commercial, but on residential in northern and southern parts. So that could be residential booms there. And again,
Are
the
they
town may
being
want
taxed at a commercial rate, or are they being taxed at an agricultural rate?
I'd have to have the
That's a
database.
very interesting question.
I'd have to look that up in the database. I don't know. It is an interesting question, but I think it'd probably be taxed as a commercial.
Agricultural. That is taxed as
I mean, I bet
agricultural.
it's taxed as a.
I don't know.
Let's find that out. That's a lot of land.
I don't think Wilson's owns that. Are they renting? They own
They
part. They own
500
part,
acres.
and then
They
they're
might
renting the
rent
rest.
some other land.
Yeah. So people think it's all agricultural over there, but really it's commercial.
There's a bunch of
zoned.
different lots
And again, that they own
that
it.
they've bought in parcels.
Are they still the same owner, though? They have one owner.
So,
Separate.
Wilson,
gonna go
George
all over the
Wilson
place,
was
so-
the original.
I just say pay attention to build
Yeah,
out.
I don't have.
That's all I'm saying. We're gonna hit
Do you have
that.
Addresses.
All right, hold on a second.
So let them look, we'll query that and
Sure
then we'll
that
move on
it's
to.
been around forever.
Is it sorted by street
It sounds
name?
like we're growing at a rate
Sort of by
faster
street name
than
or
the
just by-
projections potentially.
Yeah, John C.
Actually,
With the
Tom
recent
supported
boom, but I don't know what the
by,
economy
Deer
holds,
Bill.
nobody does.
Deer Bill,
And we're
okay.
gonna get into infrastructure, whether we really can do it or not, right, 'cause that brings its own issues, but just trying to say what the chapters say to educate everybody out there. I had to sneak up on that economic one, I didn't wanna read it for a long time.
So I would say it's probably
I read it
one
a
of the
while ago, but
oldest,
I just thought it was bigger than it was, but.
And there are
144 Charles Bancroft Highway is where the store is.
So the house next to is probably the oldest one over
I
there.
know, is this like, should we not be releasing this
two.
to the public? I
There's
mean,
one
this
that,
public
they
information, I
disclosed.
mean, I know they can get
And
it,
then
but
there's-
Well,
that wasn't
so-
the
The
point.
next one.
So-
And they're not here to defend themselves too, us talking
Well-
about them, you know? Is that public information if you're gonna blurt it out? I don't know.
What your property is assessed at, pretty much all assessing data is public information.
Okay, I just don't
So
wanna put
you
anyone on the
could
spot. yeah.
Ask for an assessing card on any property within the town
Okay,
and get it.
I mean, they should be being charged an agricultural tax rate, because that's what they do there. I mean, granted, they are also a business, but they're regulated by the government as a farm.
Right, it's how they're assessed
Right.
more than necessarily, it relates to how they're taxed, but it's how the land is assessed, the value of the land.
It's interesting.
That's best use case.
Yeah, I'll write that down so we address that, right? If that's gonna be part of this.
It's gonna be part of the plan, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden, it's commercial land.
Oh, it already is.
If they've been paying agricultural taxes for all these years, shouldn't that have something to do with that?
But that should, because that should be how it's assessed as best use case at this point in time. So,
I don't wanna raise
Right.
their taxes. I don't wanna do anything to make them move out of town.
no, it shouldn't in this case.
Yeah.
Nothing
We
to
can
it.
verify it, but it should be.
Yeah,
based-
I'm just
best use
curious.
case.
Based on whatever the land is being used for.
Yeah. Yep, okay.
All right, so we talked about the multi-overlay district, because that does allow more people to come in. Again, if people want that, I just want people to understand that that can happen, right? Most of the plans that have come forward have been in the multi-overlay district, except for that one workforce housing that came in near Noel's Tree Farm. The zoning made it workforce housing, so they got in that way.
We're
All
talking
right.
about the motorhomes?
They're manufactured homes.
Manufactured
They
homes.
look nice, 3-bedroom, a garage.
Are they?
Yeah, they look, and it was supposed to meet the $280,000 entry point for, it was a 3-bedroom too. It was.
But are they
now it's-
buying
I
them,
don't
or
think-
they're renting them? They're not buying them,
No,
right?
I think, I don't remember. I thought they were gonna buy them.
I don't
And
think
they were
so.
gonna build equity themselves in that.
No, I don't think so. I think they're rentals.
I think that, now Dark Hole Farm might have flip-flopped on,
They're the ones that flip-flop.
yeah.
But the ones over there are rentals. From the, from
I
the,
don't know. I have to
from
remember that. Do you
the stuff
remember?
that was sent to us at, conservation, I believe that he said that they were
This is
rentals.
before my time on the board, so I couldn't speak to
Because
that.
I thought that
one
you
at
said one of the justifications was somebody who can afford that price point, which they're not going to be $280,000 now, but they would be allowed to build equity in their home. So maybe there's some law, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm
It
not
could be a
sure.
combination.
I remember them saying they were
Okay.
renting them.
No,
They could be
not-
doing some low-income housing stuff as far as deed restrictions on them too, which would allow
Could
the
be.
price to be maintained at a lower rate.
Well, and they were looking to take advantage of the
Because there are
Low
grants
income,
available to help with that too. and
money
so-
back, so.
Yeah.
But that's not for rentals, that's
Right,
for
purchase only.
purchases
That's for
only.
purchase only.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was 99% positive they were renting those when he came in to talk to us, because there's wetlands on, quite a bit of wetlands over there.
Mhm.
This pond that, I wanted to do a walkthrough on that, honestly.
Yeah, they do, and they're doing all septics back there too. Yeah.
Yep. I really
So,
wanted to walk through
yeah,
it.
okay, so let's write down your stuff too, so we'll combine. All right, RSA 674:58-6-1 requires multifamily residential construction be allowed, and that's where those overlay districts came in the northern and southern part. So I think that was part of the reason that that was in for history. Let's see, they're trying to say here, strategic provisions of housing opportunities can, if you do smaller homes, 55 and older, the tiny homes, they're just saying things like that, right? So that's, did I get anything else from that chapter? And I'm gonna see if anyone, you guys had your, thing on that. The manufacturing could do the overlay district. Okay. All right, so they had in their closing remarks that we should do a recommendation to a community design master plan, and we did, and that was one of the reading assignments, so. Did anybody else, please, if you had anything about housing that you thought stood out there, or any questions or concerns about that?
Not that it was in the content, but one thing I'll note for my future follow-up there are metrics established for size of town's population, growth, and recreational assets. So they kind of have if you have this size population, you would typically have X number basketball courts, tennis courts, that kind of thing. So I can do some more homework on that to see
Yeah.
where we align with our current population size.
Because that'll be impact fees that come in after, yeah,
Yeah, because in some, like, pickleball courts, we're doing very well right now.
yeah.
Beautiful.
Very good. Tennis
Absolutely
courts, not so much, so,
Oh,
but
okay.
there are some guidelines for,
Yeah,
community
As
development.
well as other kinds of recreation too, right, Peter? Because I know that like Judy did that, you guys did that study of the demographics in town, and that there's so many more people over 50 than there were under
Yes.
50 living in town now.
Yep,
Other recreational stuff like that would be kind of interesting too, to see what else we could add.
for sure.
I
Yeah,
know
and-
that,
And there's other things that like aren't really under the Rex jurisdiction, but like a walking path, those types of things.
Yeah.
would also-
that's something we can work together on. Yeah, we have another new project going on behind the garden.
All right, very good.
Yeah, for walking paths.
And planning can help too, planning board, when we have sites come in to make them connected, so they can walk between, right? Try to make, they don't have them out there by themselves.
The 2015 impact fee study
Yeah.
that BCM did has that data.
Okay.
And what's interesting is we're concerned that the impact fee study was kind of out of date, but if you look at the population projections
Yeah.
in here,
Yeah,
it kind of hit right
Did.
in the middle of 2010, 2020. We're still kind of at that population.
yeah,
So, when we were saying that we weren't going to make some large changes to it, we might be right on track with
okay,
that.
good,
Yeah, a lot of the numbers did check out.
Yeah.
yeah.
The demographics are pretty close to a single-family town with kids kind of things. I think checked out.
Yeah, I didn't see anything that looked odd. Did you
Yeah.
guys see anything that they went, oh,
No.
really? That doesn't make sense. So that's good. I like that it's all tying together, yeah?
You asked about recommendations.
Oh, at the
and,
bottom of that chapter?
Um,
If you just scroll down to the bottom, you'll see what they recommended for housing, or population, yeah.
even some of the recommendations that have been noted like throughout the plan
Mhm.
have been expansion of town resources. So, we could make that argument that yes, we had the new fire station, right? So it's an expansion. They had the new town hall, so that was an expansion. But there's a few areas that we really haven't expanded upon
Okay.
that could use it. Highway department being one,
Where was the police station before it was in this town hall?
in the old town hall.
Yeah,
Okay.
bottom floor or something.
Yeah.
I hear stories about a jail, but I don't know if it's true.
Basement.
Because this town hall is what,
That must have
2001?
been
It's
just
not
a
an old
nightmare.
building.
It's not that
That's
old.
just the way it was back in the day. I mean, in most towns, your police station was in your town hall.
Wow, crazy. Well, it still is.
Well, they are now. They
It's just
still
a
are.
door separating us,
It's
right?
not best practice
That's
anymore.
just crazy.
though.
Wait a minute.
Best practice is to separate them now.
So you're thinking the highway department building itself? Do we have any buildings, other buildings that you're talking about? That
Well,
are-
so I
the
think we
staff.
were.
Just
we were
staff.
Staffing and equipment.
Yeah, staff.
Because you got
Okay, yeah.
more roads, more stuff.
Building.
Oh, so you're talking population and growth like that?
Building,
Yeah, so more
their
people
hi-
come
Their
in.
building is not sufficient.
Right.
Police, which we know because we're talking about the
Right.
other building.
Okay, so you're talking about future now, yeah.
So they noted it back when they were doing the plan that there was gonna need some expansions. They also noted that they were going to need expansion of resources. So we all know that the fact that we don't have sewer and the fact that we don't have gas
Mhm.
is a big deterrent to.
Yeah, that's gonna be coming up in one of those chapters, right? They did numbers if
But
you
they
did
did
sewer
note
or
it.
didn't
Yeah.
do sewer, how we would. And I don't, they didn't mention natural gas or any gas. They didn't mention any of that. I didn't
No.
see it.
It's not
They
prevalent
mentioned
around us at
sewer.
all.
I saw our electric
No,
plug-in
it's not.
cars.
It's only
but-
in parts of Manchester, parts of Londonderry, and parts of Nashville.
We got a little bit in Litchfield.
We did a little bit?
Yeah, a little tiny bit.
Tiny bit?
Yeah. Of the
America still
Manchester,
too? Yeah.
Manchester end.
So small spots around the area.
So is everybody pretty comfortable with that master plan was for 2017 projections? I think we're on track, right? But at the bottom there, did we get any of these done? Rural character, agricultural character, that's a common theme
Mhm.
in everything. Non-motorized connections to new developments, right? So we can allow people access, right? Walking to other amenities if we have more. And we did bullet number 4 with the community design plan. We did that as well. What about this? Regulatory methods and incentives to have housing that's affordable, good quality. I think that's a general one everybody wants there, but
Right.
we can move towards that. State's trying to move towards that. Right? It depends whether the town wants that here or not. Again, that's the voters deciding.
So
Do you
it
have any comment on
mentioned
that?
Under population,
Mhm.
that the average family income
Oh, yeah.
higher than most
Yeah.
communities.
Mhm.
And that still holds true. At least adjoining communities.
Yeah,
Right.
it's part of the NRPC stuff, yeah.
Yep. And that comes down to the transportation of where you're going to jobs, or you're working from home, it's all just so tied together, It's nice to see it, so then you can start to step back and go, wait a minute, it does make sense. So does anybody else have anything worth noting of the current, where we are currently, and we're writing down things for the future, I'm keeping a list here too.
Expansion of the bike path.
That
I
hits
think it would
many
be
groups.
I
interesting.
think we're tying the sidewalk to every new development, right? That it links,
Um,
we're trying to.
on 3A, wasn't it true? for
We were
3A?
trying to do one.
And you had to still come to the Board of Selectmen because they have to agree whether to do the snow removal, because we have to budget for it, is really.
Yes, yeah.
That's what the impact fees will be for, to hopefully help offset that. But that is true, we're trying to do that, on 3A anyway, right?
On 3.
On
Yeah,
the
transportation
northern
already had-
commercial part up there, where the new Dark Hole Farm, whatever, what were they calling that new development, I forget. but-
Dark Horse.
the Corning Road Farm, yep. Heading down towards Moores Falls, right, in that area, and on the other side as well of the street. Because you have that gas station going in, right, Dunkin' Donuts, all that, so. Yep. I think there was still a grant we tried to go for to connect to all the schools to walk, right?
I think there was too. And
We
the
can
library,
reapply for
right?
that.
We did.
Well, we can still reapply, just keep our eyes open. Now, it was up near the, was it Page Road? No, it was Hildreth,
It
what's
was
that road?
Page, Pinecrest.
Pinecrest. So, yeah, so now you're on 3A, you have passed the Griffin School on your left,
Yep.
the next road to go up. So
Pinecrest.
then all the schools can go up to Albuquerque and they could all walk.
Yep.
But I don't know
That's-
where the new school's going, so I don't want to go off track with
That's
that.
in here all under transportation too,
Yeah.
so,
The bike path is.
all that
It helps
stuff, yeah.
recreation for the walking
We
and
hope to
the
expand all
safety
that
because,
stuff. To move Albuquerque down, all the way down to 102, all that stuff's in here, so.
so we good with that one? Does anybody else want to say anything about that? We're good? All right, we're going to move on to the next big one. This is a biggie, transportation. Didn't really do a lot of notes on it, but I say when I moved to Litchfield, I was surprised. We used to be landlocked with the river, so you survived like Tingsboro did for a while. But I noticed the beautiful infrastructure. You had an airport. You can get here really easy and out of here easy now, right? So we're in a desirable location. I mean, easy way in and out now, right? Which, it's good we have good infrastructure, because other towns don't have that. So that's good, for that goes into the transportation. So, what did I say, page 2, what did I say? Something about the last bullet on Page Road, what did I say, page 2? Let me go to the transportation chapter. I don't know why I drew an unhappy face.
You must have been tired,
I don't
Kim.
know, let's see. No, let's see, what were we doing, chapter 5? 2020, that's not that old. This was during COVID, and that's hard because we were looking at traffic counts, and then nobody was on the
Nobody's on
road.
the
Right? And we're like,
Point slightly skewed.
so we,
I'm sure it's
well,
still down. I mean, there's still more people working from home than there ever were
Probably.
before. I know a lot of people are
That's
going
changing
back.
though. A lot of companies are pulling people back.
yeah,
Still,
okay, so that's
yeah.
gonna go away.
Well, you don't know.
What did I say on page 2? I didn't like, I don't know. I think the scenic road, I think they tried to make that a scenic road on 3A at one point, but it can't be a state road. We were trying to look at some of
Right,
that. I think that was
that's our
Ray
one state
Peoples
road.
might have tried that a long time ago.
It is a
It
state
can't be,
road.
it is a
I
state-
thought, yeah, that's why you couldn't make it a scenic road.
Oh. it
That,
can't
that
be-
was because I was looking it up, because I
Because it
thought
is
Ray
a
Peoples had tried that, and I didn't want to
Well,
mention his
that's
name, but he had
Easy
tried
block.
that, and I think that's why it was turned
Yeah.
down.
We still have to plow.
Because I think I was looking at that. Okay, so I
We don't
think
plow?
that was that, so I said
Right, we don't.
eight,
No, we
page
don't.
2,
We don't
A's
at all.
last
Not that on
bullet.
102.
No, you're right. Okay.
But all of this really got into how great our highway department's doing. I was just, all these roads and everything was doing plans, but All right, I thought the access management was nice of getting in and out of curb cuts on 3A and 102, right? Always good to have, so
Minimize the
but-
curb cut.
I think we're leveraging the state for that with DOT, that they're more firm.
Oh, they are firm.
They're very firm, and
They're
they should be.
They don't play about the curb cuts.
No,
They do or don't?
They
They
don't.
don't.
they don't.
They don't
Those-
play?
No
you mean?
room for
They-
negotiation.
Those were done in like 1971, and you
Yeah.
can't change it from
Right,
there.
right.
Yeah.
And I saw what
Probably
Renee
the problem
went
with
through.
the gas station,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
Yeah, he went through
it's
it,
screwed
like-
up the gas station. It was really hard for,
For licks.
Dana.
Yeah,
Dana
for the
and
storage
Ellen.
over there, yeah.
When they did their,
I thought the arterial road, they said, if I read this right, you tell me, they said the New Hampshire Route 3A had a grade of a C for a road, and New Hampshire 102 had a D. I don't know, I thought that was alarming, because Corning Road had the D, was gonna fail soon, too, right?
Corning Road is a tough road, though.
Yeah, they're gonna be fixing that, so, but arterial roads are like the roads that kind of feed into the bigger roads, and Albuquerque's one of them, right? And again, I don't know, I wasn't here at time, but I thought when Albuquerque was going to become what 3A is, and they were gonna try to get the traffic off of 3A, I don't know, but we grew as we grew, right? So anyway, I'm just thinking that arterial road,
When did the center section get added to
which intersection?
Albuquerque? The center section, because for our first.
Oh, yeah,
many
there
years
was
here,
woods,
You
yeah.
couldn't go all the way through. You had to
Right.
go, take a right, go up, take a left,
Mm-hmm.
go down Hillcrest to get to the dump.
Yeah, but that was in the plan here, didn't they say to do that? And then they had also said to push through to 102 at some point if you could, right? But yeah, I remember voting for that, and because I said, that would be great. And then all of a sudden, the speeding started happening. I'm like, no, stay at 35, but that gets you to Route 3, right?
But you can't push to 102.
I-
Not at the
There's housing
moment.
Back there.
Not
You
at the
just have to
moment.
do the Cutler, you have to go through Cutler. and
Yeah,
get
instead of
there.
going around Cutler.
There are woods that you could go through. to
Yeah,
get
they
to
could make a
102.
road
It
to
would- I don't
push
know
through.
why we'd do it, but
We tried to work with the town of Londonderry because of that left, anytime you take a left turn.
we could
Off
really use
page.
a light there.
Yeah, but
Good
so we're
Lord.
working with the town. It's not our land, so we have to work, and they did traffic studies and death studies, and they're watching it, but they're not gonna do anything
Somebody
yet.
just died on there
I
last
know,
year,
I
or
know.
this year.
And I'm gonna be reading that at the
Fire
NRPC
department.
reports when we see the statistics of who
Fire.
died. And 101 is not safe either, going west with the fog. But yeah, I agree. So anyway, we'll get to that in a sec. So let's keep going. So I thought the access management policies are good. We'll keep an eye on that in the planning board anyway. Okay. The traffic calming measures was big. We're still working on that with Albuquerque for the school, the high school down there, and some of the intersections they're going through. So just so you know, we can make things that we want. We did a study. But do we have to really bring in traffic engineers to do that with signage and lights? We can't do it, or we introduce liability to the town. You have to bring in people who know what they're doing, you know, where the stop signs go, how far back. And the Board of Selectmen has some of Albuquerque, but it's just, again, it's funding, right? We have to go out and bid it and all that. And so we might have to get that in front of the voters to see if they want that. So it's for the transportation on a major road, arterial road of Albuquerque. We're talking, this chapter talked about traffic calming measures.
Well, Dark Hole's gonna change that traffic pattern up there, and
That's going to be an intersection, hopefully the grant, it looks like it's went through. They're going to make it 90-degree turn, 90-degree, you'll have 2 turn lanes. So if you're going towards Manchester, there'll be a lane to go right. And if you're coming from Manchester going south, there'll be another turn lane in the left. So it's going to be widening, having two lanes in each direction. So people can
Wouldn't
go
the
around.
state take care of that, though? I mean, it's
They-
their road.
Yeah, they're giving us
And they tell us that
funding.
all the time.
They're giving us funding. Actually, they didn't make us pay the match. You know, how when you get win these, you have to, it's an 80-20. The state would pay 80%, we'd have to come up with 20%. They waived it. Because it is part of their problem. And it is regional because it goes, if you go down that road, you change like 3 towns in a matter, real quick, right? And they get to the airport, I mean, it is a regional issue.
yeah.
So they are gonna fix that intersection, and I actually thought last time I saw that I don't wanna get people upset out there, but I thought I saw maybe lights being introduced there, I don't know.
I actually don't think lights are a horrible idea.
I don't either. There was a nasty accident. My
hate to
neighbor
do
got
it.
hit there.
I hate to do it because you don't want to stop any traffic on that road. But I think you add 62 more homes with 104 more cars.
Yep.
You know, then all of a sudden you've got a real problem going onto a road that the reason that she left that location was because of the sound of the traffic that was out there with the horses reacting to
Yeah.
it. That's why she sold.
The traffic studies said it would, now that intersection's failing anyway, it's a D. would they give it, 5 years? And Luke Karen, our engineer to the town, said, I think they gave it 10, but Luke Karen said less. So the traffic studies, which they're very good with the state, said that alone won't flip it to negative,
Right.
but maybe the gas station will.
Yeah.
That's why that whole area is really being looked at. So if they can put the light or the turning lanes, perfect. My neighbor, their car was hit by a dump truck and it spun and hit that pole over there, right? If it was another 2 or 3 inches over, they would have been, so it's a
Too
dangerous
narrow.
intersection. Because the wait
Really
time at
narrow.
that, they were going to think was 3 minutes. They were saying in about 2 or 3 years,
take a
if you're,
left.
if you're
Left
coming
off
down
Corning?
Corning Road and you're trying to get on, it's going to be like a 3-minute
doing well
wait.
if
And
it's
that's when
just 2
people
minutes.
peel out because they're upset, right?
Right.
Exactly.
No, but at least, so it's in the 10-year plan. I hate to say it that way, but the state works.
Slowly.
But at least we got the money. If not, we would have had to pay, what, $2 million? So I'm happy if it goes through, we save the taxpayers money and hopefully
But it's
All
the
right.
same issue you have on 102.
Very slow.
on
So
the
you have
Page Road, that
same
left.
issue with people trying to turn.
Yeah.
Anywhere they're trying to turn, whether they're trying to come out of
It's
Rocco's,
dangerous.
Rocco's?
Yeah, that's a dangerous
Yeah,
one too.
or
On 102.
all the way down to the Cumberland Farms,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I drive this every morning and every night.
Mm-hmm.
And when you introduce people trying to come out of establishments onto a busy roadway, and that's what you have to watch.
I'd rather
on
cross 3A
3A.
and go left, though.
It's 3A and
Or for Talent. I'd rather cross 3A and go left than try and get on Page Road. And Page Road, getting on 102 from Page Road it's treacherous.
Is 102 a state road? It must be, yeah.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Are you trying to say this Economic Development Committee maybe collects money to start fixing some of these things?
Well,
For
I mean,
safety,
that's a
right?
scenario, so, I mean, everyone can ask for a stoplight, but it's a state road.
Right, then you have to deal with them.
Right?
But again, if it's a
Um,
safety issue, they'll,
So the next
I said it's not
one
bad.
up.
Yeah, they didn't say it was
went
bad.
Hillcrest to West
not enough tide yet.
and out through Londonderry, they have a stoplight.
Say that? Who has a stoplight in Londonderry?
Londonderry does.
Londonderry.
The end of West
So,
Road.
so I'll go the back way, so I
Yeah.
can still avoid going left,
right,
go through Londonderry.
Oh, yeah, I go down West Street to take the
Go
left.
down
Yeah.
west,
Fire
and
it
that
down,
has
yeah.
a stop.
And then I can,
That's
then
why I
I can
do
get
it.
to a light.
Yeah.
I roll the dice.
You live that way.
Okay, so that's, so curb cuts, the traffic calming measures are for safety on Albuquerque with the kids on the road trying to cross the street to get to the bike path and the congestion at the high school, just for a couple peak times a day, but still it's a little dangerous, so. Board of Selectmen has that at the moment. All right, I went to traffic counts I thought were interesting on page 28. Except they left the Corning Road. It said 11,500 cars go through there every workday. Now, again, we're post-COVID, but this was pre-COVID, right? That's a lot of cars going through there.
11,000 cars. a day.
11,500? It's at least at the data set on page 28, traffic counts. But it
That
let you,
surprises me.
What? It's high, right?
well, I'm just
Yeah,
reading what the chart
because
said.
You can get to the
But they
airport
put the
here in
strips on the
Londonderry, you're
road.
coming out, you can get to the
You
airport.
know how
the
NRPC will put those things and they
pipe
when
dreams
they go
are
over?
That way.
Right, yep.
to get there.
Yeah, that's.
You could, we have a lot of trucks going to work, we have a lot
Manchester
of things.
line.
So what that
12,000.
let you see was the workers, how they're commuting, right? That gave you some insight in going in and out of town, and if we keep growing as a town, we have to be ready for that.
Right.
There's really 1,000 people using Corning.
Right.
If you look at the
I
difference.
wonder how much of
Look at the
that has
difference,
changed.
guys.
Yeah, they're coming from Londonderry and stuff, right?
Well, look, but only
Oh, 3A.
1,000, because look, at the Manchester line, they're saying 12,000 cars go by at the Manchester line. They're saying 11,500 come by south of Corning. So there's really only a difference of 1,000.
A bunch of rights being taken.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And they're not from our town. They're coming in from London. You know the towns that are coming down Corning and take a right on 3A, right?
Oh, yeah, Starlene.
So it's, yeah. All right, so, but again, if the population grows, we just have to pay attention. It started talking about inner-city buses and passenger rail. I think rail died on the state level. Autonomous vehicles were being told on the planning board to make the roads thinner. They're coming. I don't know if that's true or not.
Thinner roads.
Right now,
Prepare
if-
thinner, not actually
to
to be
prepare. So roads are a certain width today. They're saying if we go to these driverless cars and nobody has a car anymore, you know, we
Oh,
don't.
please.
I know, I'm gonna we know who builds roads. Let them worry about
Jetson's
that.
car and I'll find out.
Or buses.
Let's see, they did recommend at the bottom to, if you get to the end of Albuquerque and you come to Page Road, so you went past the high school and you come to the woods, you go right or left, they were recommending if you could get away, instead of going down Page Road to take that crazy turn on 102, to try to get a road somehow to Page 102 that way.
I think
that
you
way-
could.
Either way, you'd have
behind
to go,
everything,
you'd have
I
to take a
think you
right
could.
and go down to the woods and then come out
You'd
on
need
the other
conservation
side
land, though,
of.
and you can't have it.
Well, I'm just saying what they recommended. Money talk
Oh,
sometimes.
what, out there
You
too?
can't have it.
I vote no.
Okay, and I don't even think that's was commercially zoned anyway. That's part of the circumventional highway stuff anyway out there, right? That land over there. So
land
it's
is-
still kind of, I don't really
of
know if the
Page Road?
state
I
owns
love when
part of
she
it.
points at the map and goes, that land
Right
over
there
there.
on the, and that map's old, and I don't want to be getting yelled at by that gentleman. I keep pointing with that to the woods, because it's an old map, and it's really not. But anyway, so that was one thing. And I don't even know if the state owns that land or so.
This
State
land
owns some
for
of
the
that land still?
circumventional highway, the
Yeah.
state still owns the land.
Okay, so that would be a problem.
It'll be important to engage the state in what purpose that land will be used for.
Before they decide.
Yeah, we have some ideas of what they're using it for, but
So if you're coming,
Do tell.
the other thing was, this was for the kids on Albuquerque that I was seeing having a problem. If you're out here at the intersection, if people are coming down here and the town hall's on your left, right, you're on Hillcrest, town hall's on our left, we get to the pink house over there. Instead of, during peak hours of school, instead of trucks taking a right to get to 3A, go straight across Hillcrest past the dump and go down that way. Just kind of redirect the traffic instead of just going down Albuquerque at, a higher speed. So here you are outside the town hall, right? You come to the intersection, pink house is right here. You can go Albuquerque. So to keep the big trucks off during school hours
When
or
kids are
whatever.
going home down
and getting on the bus,
Albuquerque.
have trucks go straight across past the dump and get on 3A that way. Just divert the traffic, because the kids have to use the sidewalks to walk to school or whatever to get to the buses. So that was one of the things, not saying it's a
It's not a
showstopper
half
for
bad
the
idea.
town.
They do that in Hudson on one of the roads off of 3A. There's no trucks allowed.
Certain hours of the day.
A
certain
certain
hours of
time
the
zone,
day.
yeah, a certain
Till
hours.
nine
At the
o'clock
curve,
in the
at that
morning
hard-
or something
at that
like
hard
that.
curve, right?
Not after
And it's
2.
definitely for school because it's early morning and kind of mid-afternoon.
Let's see, sidewalk development was big for transportation, obviously for recreation, health, conservation, everything, and health for the town. Again, access management seems to be coming up quite a bit of getting in and out of homes, driveways, and businesses. So keep the line of sight open. So that's what, I don't know what anyone else came away with this, other than we have 2 or 3 major roads in town. Right? It's not many roads here, other than the residential homes, obviously, but if you look at the map, you can see where they are. Yeah.
So one of the questions that came up when I first started last October was when you, and this happens when you build over 55, what happens if you don't drive? So if there are people that have issues with driving, we do work with NRPC, and we have a number of different resources that we can work with, from Manchester to Nashua to Hudson. But that was a question that came up, and we did quite a bit of research on when I got here.
I wish somebody in
So
town
what kind
had
of
business.
answers did you get?
There are nonprofits that do just that, mostly for medical, if you have a doctor's appointment or things of that sort. The one that did come up that I haven't found out yet, I haven't gotten an answer on, is senior centers.
Yeah, I'd love
So
that.
they're asking, and I'm assuming that
I'm hoping we get one.
Yeah,
I'm assuming that these over 55s have some sort of clubhouse.
They all
they
do.
do, yeah.
They all do.
Beautiful.
But they were looking for specific recreational. That was the newest ones, calls that I've been getting.
Pelham has the,
And
what
I don't
I've
think you
seen.
can go to
I think the Hudson one has
Hudson's is
I'm going to say
phenomenal.
it's a small bus kind of a vehicle that they take people around in. I believe.
like a paratransit type.
It's like a small bus, yeah, that's got a wheelchair ramp and stuff. And I utilized it when I had my mother.
okay, yeah. That's big. Pelham has a great program for their seniors in town. Lots of programs, health checks, just and they can offset it and rent out the rooms for offices if people need meetings, it was a community center more than a senior center, is really what it turned out to be. So, but, that would be, to me, I think we need that in town as well.
Well, we have
It's
the
something-
church too, for the ones that aren't in the over 55 communities.
Yeah.
We do have the church, and I know they were trying to do some stuff too, but
Yeah, so that's a
We don't
good.
have
We actually
any
have
indoor
churches.
facilities.
No, I mean, I can certainly speak to the community center when we get to that kind of section, 'cause
Okay.
talent is talent, it certainly had a good run, and it still provides a lot of access to recreation for folks in town, but it's not a community center. But there are a number of constituencies that would be interested and benefit from a redesigned actual community center that has rec, community gathering, other assets.
dances, those kind of things for teenagers that
Yeah.
would be keeping kids out of trouble. And
Yep. Yeah, I mean, right now we use it mostly for athletic recreational leagues, but we have other groups come in. If you had a different design, it would obviously be more appealing to different groups that athletics is not the major interest,
Not the only interest.
Right, not the only interest.
yeah.
Yeah, it would be an asset for a broader constituency of the town. So, and certainly for a community hub where seniors or youth could gather.
Even 4-H, bringing 4-H back
Yep,
in,
like
place
that.
where Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts could have a place in town that was, central. I think it would just would be really
Yeah,
That would be an asset.
beneficial to so many areas of the town.
it would. I mean, right now it's a big room more than anything else, right? I mean,
Dara,
we used to
oh
have
my
a
God,
kitchen.
yes.
That
We've
doesn't have
used it for
kitchen.
everything, though. I have to say,
Yeah.
we've been very
Oh, yeah.
creative as a community, how and what we've used that facility for, but it is just a big room,
Yeah.
big box.
Yeah.
That would definitely be an asset for a lot of people.
It
Of course,
would,
it's the money, but, if they wanted it,
right.
they want it on the survey, right? I don't know, did the community design chapter put that in? I think it did. I wanted that. I think I spoke to it there, but I was reading it today. I don't remember seeing it, but
There was, as far as I know, at least some sort of warrant article.
We did do a warrant
Oh, we did?
article about 3 or 4 years ago to just non-binding, basically a question about if the town would support
Yeah.
doing an initial assessment, and it was voted down.
was it a big margin, do you know?
I
We
don't
could look
think
it
it
up.
had a specific amount tied to it, and I think that was part of its demise.
Too open?
was-
They were just
yeah,
doing an
it was just
inquiry?
Too open.
Yeah, there wasn't
Yeah,
any
we
dollar
feel-
attached to it. It's just like, should we start the process of looking at what the options may be? Just because we wanted to get a sense if the town had an appetite for it, and it
Yeah.
failed, so.
But we just saw the population projection, like most of us are over 50, right? Isn't that what the statistics said in the
And that's
population
that-
chapter we just
That's the
read?
difficulty, is you have to find somewhere, I mean, this is New England, you have to find somewhere inside, other than, just outside recreational facilities for these residents. So the grant that was done just this past spring was huge, right? 17, I think it's 17 communities throughout the state received millions of dollars, and just for community centers, but you had to have an engineering plan.
Oh, that
Yeah.
costs.
And at that point, we had, and it was a short turnaround, like 4 weeks.
Oh, no.
So much
And
can be
we had
done now.
nothing.
So much. I mean, we could have our own little, area with babysitting teachers, and then all of a sudden you've got a place for some daycare areas, and, I mean, it can,
Immunizations, anything,
yeah.
or when there's a storm or something, anything.
Well, Campbell is the storm center,
Is that the
right?
storm center?
That's the
Okay.
emergency building for the town.
Yeah, you're right. So, yeah. Well, that's a lot there. So we did the transportation, which I think the town is in good shape, especially with our highway department also doing a good job. Plus, they have plans in place for the roads. Every year they switch which roads get paved or they're ranked also. Right? I think they're just doing phenomenal on that side of the transportation part.
As long as
That's
we-
my own opinion, but
As long as we don't lose the highway block grant.
I
We
know.
lose the highway block grant, which is all state funded, and
oh, we had to ever, how can we
there's
be
going to
threatened?
be issues paving.
It's never guaranteed, is it? We seem to get it every year that I've been on the
Oh,
board.
yeah, I
But-
mean, gosh, years. It's at least, you never know. It is safe through the next 2 years. But it is something that they look at and they adjust as they have extra revenue. So
We love extra.
it's not like, you know,
Who has extra?
meals and rooms that is collected and then divvied out. This is highway block with straight money.
Okay, well, that's scary because that's the budget. If we don't have that money, we are in trouble.
Yeah, it's about $200,000.
Which means and they run so lean, they do a great job with the money. If you don't mind, I'd like to do chapter 9 next, which is community design, because it's small, before we get into what they came up with their logic for economic back in 2002. Do you mind if I do that? Or do you have something you want to say?
One last thing before we move on to transportation is I regret I have to provide some transportation to a 12-year-old resident in about 15 minutes. So I just wanted to give you a heads up.
Do you want to say anything in case you have to go? Is there anything you want to address?
No, but just want to give a heads up.
Oh, okay, so you're not being rude?
Exactly. Thank you.
No problem.
I think we all can identify with that.
Yeah. All right, so chapter 9 was community design. And a lot of people from the Historical Society joined that at the time. It was open to the public too, but that seemed to be who came to that. So you're going to see a lot of drawings in there from Heidi Miller. Did you see all those little maps and drawings in there?
That's another group we don't have a rep from, is the Heritage.
Isn't that? Do you think they want to be here?
I don't know.
That's a good idea. You want Heritage Commission here?
Okay?
Yeah, why not? Oh, okay.
Hey,
You're
Marion?
going to take that note? You want me? Yeah. And I think it is her. She's
She's
now-
the chair.
She's the chair.
Mhm.
Good. Oh, that's a good idea. Great.
I would definitely think so.
It was,
Because that's part
They
of
know
our
more
economic.
about this town than I would ever forget.
um,
I forgot more about this town than I would ever know. That's
You've
what
been
I
here
wanted-
for-
I knew
that's
what you
I
meant,
to
Diane.
say. You speak, Diane.
But that, the historical part could tie into the economic of the town at some
Mhm.
point, so, it doesn't hurt. Absolutely. I'm sorry about the oversight on that, or overlooking it, sorry. All right, so community design. So when this happened, I'll give you the highlights, but again, if you had anything else, I looked at page 4 when they mentioned the small-scale commercial nodes. So we were thinking of Route 101 west when you're heading past Bedford and you get into Amherst, and you have the Black Forest Cafe or something on one side. You go up a little further, they have these little small nodes of businesses. They're very small, office suites. And that's what we thought would be, when we were discussing, would look better in Litchfield than some industrial-looking kind of thing,
Where?
Well, that could be, where is a good question. I think they wanted more nestled in, probably in the northern part of town. I think there's not a lot of space.
You have the Litchfield Food Mart. It's kind of one of those
The
little
Litchfield what?
Litchfield Food Mart, and then
Yep.
Tim's Turf is back there, so that kind of has that little feel about it.
Yeah.
Romano's is over there. Got a restaurant,
They
business.
weren't sure if the landowner over there wanted to have that over, over in the northern part of town. There could be some stuff up there too. But again, like a
Okay.
coffee shop, a dentist office, that kind of small little, or what's the other town, Hollis, their little center of towns are small and look almost like homes kind of thing, like a couple of suites together. That was the idea anyway. They really wanted to have, support professional offices, assisted living, and other services. They wanted, and if you're going to have offices, leave the bigger ones out on Route 102. Again, this is, whatever business wants to come to town, obviously we're going to have a discussion, right? But this is just, they were thinking more look on that. They did want a general store in town, and I can absolutely see where that would be cute to have. I don't know if it could be economically supported, but if you just need it, and a coffee shop was a very big one that a lot of people in town
Well,
wanted.
all of that's in the gas station.
Well, yeah, I guess you're driving through now. See, this was written back when? 2019. No, but I think, again, if you have time, you just want to sit and chat and,
And then
I was gonna
we
say
had talked
chit-chat and
about-
talk and,
We had talked about even allowing like farm to table.
Yep.
In an area.
Yep.
But it would have that agricultural feel.
Yeah, that came up in one of the chapters. One of
Does
them
it
I
come
wrote
up
it
on
down. Yeah, that came into farming. It might be the other one, I don't know. Yep. Must be in the
We're gonna
economic
have a
one.
winery someday, right?
We're trying. We're trying. All right. We're trying. All right. Oh, actually, this goes with recreation and conservation. Historic River's Edge Park.
Oh,
So,
God, I would
yeah.
love it.
The walkway.
I
Did you
could
see the
walk that
picture in the
cool.
chapter?
No.
If you go to chapter 9, there's a picture with gazebos and picnic tables, which you kind of are already starting to do that. So we'll just walk the river, keep it open. Because there was a survey in town, Diane might have been part of that, where they wanted to always have the view of the river open. It's like, we have this beautiful river and nobody can see it.
That was the what's that,
Right? That was one of the top 5, maybe.
Well, that's how they got the boat launch in there, and they've done all the work on the muster field to provide
when we
that.
didn't get dark cold for the town,
Yeah.
that was like a huge loss,
Yeah.
because we had the house, it could have become a senior center, drop-in center.
Yeah.
It could have been, when we didn't get that, that was like huge. That was a big loss, because that's where I would have put a community, what do you call it? Gazebos and picnic and concert center. I had big dreams. 4-H.
All right, let's go, we missed homes, but I'll go back to homes. All right, so here's the old, if you look at, uh-oh, did I just hit
No,
the,
your gavel just fell over.
I gavelled on my gavel. All right, so what's this on the Bancroft Highway? Let me see. So, can you see the drawings there? 2009, that's a little hand drawing of your old center of town. If you keep going down, scroll past the farms, you're gonna see the river walk called the Historic River Edge Park. And there'll be a picture of 2 people like leaning over a fence looking at the river, but then if you scroll down further, there was a hand drawing of what it could look like. So again, works off getting people out walking and enjoying one of the assets of the town we don't get a chance to too much.
We are
So
working on
that
that.
was something maybe to look at.
Normanton Farm has come forward and said that they would be interested in being part of that.
Good.
Yeah.
Wilmington Farm? Who's that?
Normanton.
Oh, Normanton, okay, good,
Normanton
good.
Farm.
Nice.
They'd be able to
So you
walk
see the picture
through
there?
and walk through
No, I
where
can't
the
get it to
cows
open
are and.
Down
So
there.
if you go up here, you can see them kind of just walk around the, I don't know, I'm gonna get the gavel's gonna go on the ground. So you see them like looking over at the river with the fence? Just, and then if you page down a little bit, you're gonna see where they were thinking maybe you
See
could
the
use the
river.
old fire station for something, or.
I'm seeing the kid throwing his trash in the river.
Storage for the house.
Something for a lifeguard.
Did you scroll down to the picture?
Yeah.
Yeah, so again, wouldn't that be nice to do and Wilton made a lot of money on that. They have a stroll,
It's a big thing
a
right
river
now.
stroll. They do it at Christmas time. They do the
Who
whole.
does
area.
it?
Wilton,
Decks out onto the
Wilton.
river.
town of Wilton, yeah.
I'll have to go
And
check
it really
that
has
out.
a big
To be able to
draw.
get Access from somebody's property.
There's a couple
to
we
do all
can't
that.
get access through.
Yes, that's the issue, but
We're running
that's what
into
people
some-
want. We can always ask them. That was the vision, you know. All right,
And
we didn't talk
that's an
about
issue right
homes.
now.
Yeah.
It
Well,
is
there's
an
the
issue
rail
right now,
trails
like the
goes through there,
Musterfield.
too.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to that with the biking. There
They
is a
never allowed
biking,
it
there was a
before.
biking,
You had to park over.
we actually have streets that are
Town
on the
hall.
Hold on.
biking trail for
Yeah,
the
so you're
state,
supposed to
Route
park.
3,
People are
102,
parking
and
on
coming up,
Musterfield.
there's like 4 of them. There's a picture in there.
Place to see.
So, yeah, and you brought up a good point. In the transportation chapter, we do have 4 or 5 of our major roads are in part of the state's bicycle path roads. Did you see that in the chapter? So, yeah, you are right about that. I did miss housing in this chapter. They just, if you're gonna have different types of homes, they would just really want them to look like single-family, even though they may not be. We have a certain
Aesthetic.
aesthetic that we have the old New England home, but not saying you have to be that, but yeah, so you can look out there. So what else did we say? Darrow Pond, they said was a gem, and it is, but even the economic chapter said, needs periodic, not upkeep, but there was a nicer word they used, but it just needs to be looked at every couple of years.
Yeah, we have a milfoil
Um,
problem.
But it was,
Yeah, we're working with conservation on that because we're kind
I
of at a
know.
crossroad. You have to-
Yeah, I know, we can't get the guy that, there's a new milfoil product. And, you have to be specially licensed to do it in each state, and he's in Massachusetts. And Joan had been the one to contact him, but my cousin does that kind of work too, but in Ohio.
Yeah.
So he actually reached out to the guy as well, to try and get, information about whether or not he was gonna get that license. But this new milfoil treatment lasts like 5 years as opposed to a year. But it's expensive.
So I would check with Michael Croto.
Yeah.
On the planning board. He sits on the Lower Merrimack River Advisory.
So do I.
And
Yeah,
on
that's
that,
right.
well, so Nashua has a waterways manager. And they remove milfoil from Litchfield Grove
They do.
all the time. Yep.
I wonder how they're doing it.
That's
Yeah,
great
so,
news.
oh gosh, now I'm gonna,
Waterways
Deb.
manager, who do I call?
Deb, she's on the committee. Deb, short hair, short brown hair.
I haven't met her.
Many meetings.
But she,
I'm gonna send
she
her an
works in
email.
the planning, community development. She's a waterways.
Okay.
So that she just specializes in that stuff.
I got booed when I said I wanted a splash pad over at Dara Pond.
Oh,
You're not the only one who's brought that up.
The irrigation won't let it
so
happen.
have
That
you
would have
seen
been
the one in
fun.
Derry?
In Derry, yeah, yeah.
And the baseball park, you go out past Clam Haven, and there's a baseball park, Dawn something.
That's a big splash pad for the kids. It's awesome.
It's
They
it's
took adults. out of there.
playground
Yeah. Yeah.
with a splash pad in the middle, and then fields like football.
Picnic tables that are under
Huge
canopies.
Yes,
Yeah.
That's a huge population
It
though, and they
was-
have
Oh, yeah.
Pinkerton too.
gigantic
That'd be fun, but I don't think
Beautiful.
we can with the irrigation
bathhouse.
over there.
I think it might be a
Oh, maybe
little
it
big
will.
for us, but yeah.
Put it in down by the river somewhere.
Yeah. That's all.
Plenty of water there.
Where?
Down by the river somewhere.
Hose them down.
Just toss a pump in the river.
I'll open it up to what do I call it? Non-public? What am I opening it up to?
Oh yeah.
We don't go into
Maybe
non-public, do
Not,
we?
not on public.
Good
Wait a
Lord.
minute. Let me get the right word here.
Go there.
What do we call it?
Public,
I'm going to call
public
it
comment.
public
comment.
input. So I said after 6:45, so I'm going to open it up to public input. Nobody, is there anybody online?
No.
Okay, then I'm going to close public input. So I opened it at 7, we'll call it 7:29, and I'm going to close it at 7:29. Nobody here?
Should we nominate a chair for this board?
I thought I
We
would.
did.
Did you say
We
I
nominated
was?
at the last
I
one.
asked when
Did
I
we
came
do
in
it?
here.
Yeah.
Oh, we did it? Okay,
Yeah,
good.
that's
All
what I said. I'm like, which meeting am I at? Was I?
right.
So we're gonna wait for the
I forget.
energy
I was the
one.
community input person.
There you go. All right, so we're gonna close that. All right, so what else about, so Liberty Way here, they talked about, now this is before the Veterans Park is going in, but right at the corner, they wanted a little ice arena. You know how the water gathers there anyway?
And
There's a weird pipe
swale
in there.
there. It fills with water every.
Yeah,
every-
so that was something, and this park here,
Right
you know,
into our parking lot.
No, but on the on the
just a
corner.
little ice skating thing. And that could be something maybe done at Dara, if you, people, I see them in people's yards all the time. But again, I don't know if it's a liability on the town,
if-
that's another question.
We've had it before.
They're
Yeah,
actually.
perfect.
Do you have an ice skating rink? in the-
Not anymore, but there was one constructed a number of years ago for a winter fest, and then I think they put it up for another season or two.
Great.
I mean, they're other than the water expense, because anything up here is
Mm.
Pennachuck.
Yeah.
They're not expensive to do.
Yeah, you can charge people. They go, "Yeah, we're gonna-"
It'd be good use of the fields and that time of year.
I
so.
believe
It
I.
all flat.
That's right.
That can't be good for the grass.
No, you take it apart way before the spring hits.
Yeah.
Oh.
So
Yeah, yeah.
Who used to do that Winterfest? Was it softball?
Wasn't
No,
Spirit of
the
Litchfield.
Christmas,
Yeah, the
the
Christmas
Merry
song.
predates the Spirit of Litchfield. It was part of Rec and some other volunteers that
Yeah.
Yeah.
off on it. Yep.
Because that used to be like, there was Huskies and,
Yeah, yeah.
and yeah, that wasn't Spirit of Litchfield. That was pretty cool.
But even out here, you know, how when the woods gets trimmed, they were thinking of, for the kids to have a little sculpture park, walk-through park, a fake fire truck, a fake police car that the kids could just walk around in here and see. Or just a sculpture. Ever see some of those museums where you walk around and there's a sculpture in the woods? So they were thinking in this area, which is now becoming maybe the new town center. Again, we're thinking this whole Liberty Way area here.
So we were, one of the items that came up, we actually, were speaking with the road agent about is, if we are going to look at a police station over there, one of the things we should do is separate employee parking from public parking. That's best practice. And we could then create a parking area just to
Well, the
extend a
police
little
area
way
is its
back.
own separate parking over here.
It's not enough for all the employees to park there.
Okay.
So all the cars you see out in front of this are employees, most of them. when we had the, ballots.
When you had the vote,
Yes, do you remember that there wasn't enough parking?
Have a
People
good
were
evening.
everywhere.
Oh, God, I didn't
Be
come anywhere
safe.
near
See you
here.
soon.
I wouldn't come anywhere near here. Bye,
Sorry,
Peter.
looking forward to working more with all of you.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, we'll work with you next
month.
meeting. Take care.
Last Wednesday of September.
All right.
See you there.
So again, more play structures for the children here, if that, you know, it sounded cute for the kids. The last thing I saw there was something about rural roads, to minimize tree cutting, if we could. I think that was because, across here, when we, you know how they own the road, the state owned the forest, they kind of just came in and did what they did.
they did a horrible job.
And it looked like one tree had its arm broken, and what happened at the dump. So I think that just made it, just come in, but just be more selective is, you know, all that
The
was.
dump ended up being okay. It's not so bad now
It's
that those
not
trees
great,
have grown a
but
little bit. It's
Rick-
not
It
awful.
doesn't look bad, no.
It came in and did semi-repair.
But the forest is awful. We walk the forest and there's all kinds of fuel on the ground just waiting for a fire.
Where?
Across in the state forest. They didn't clean it up at all.
One of our,
That's scary. I need to cough drop.
residents went over there
Yeah.
and cleaned up, one of our residents, which was really inappropriate. The state should have cleaned it up.
Got cough drop, that's all.
It was a mess, and the town forest is a mess. It's not anything like what it used to be. I mean, they really came in and just hacked it.
Sorry to hear that.
I don't know.
It's getting a
I don't
cough
know.
The state did it.
When
State did
they
it.
own
This
that
was
land
the
and they
state.
had to cut
Yeah,
it.
but, I mean, even,
The foresting of it was understandable. The leaving
Anybody want
everything
a
the way it
cough
was not.
Cough drop, anybody? With the time the AC goes on, I get it.
um,
All right.
But a resident went and cleaned that up.
That's
Went in there with
awful.
his chipper.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Somehow he didn't.
So,
Like this.
So again, the only thing about the community design, again, so we talked about the housing, we talked about the businesses, about some of the parks, would be more walking and cycling networks if we could do it. Sounds like that's a popular theme going on. Somewhat introduced rotaries. There's a picture in here about rotaries. I'm just saying what was shown, it was a little more genteel than some of the intersections with lights.
like.
It doesn't have to happen. But did you see the picture in there? There was an aerial view at the end of the
I
chapter.
missed the rotary. Somebody, they wanted rotaries?
It was a double
Most people
rotary,
don't.
but you didn't.
Most people don't want rotaries.
No, it
It's a
was,
different message.
Page 14.
Page 14.
yeah, page
Shows the-
14.
It shows the airport and stuff.
In the,
Oh, the airport, going up to the
I think
airport?
so, yeah.
so yeah, if you look at that, page 14.
Would, Litchfield would like to move toward using rotaries where possible.
I don't know where they would go right now, but
Yeah,
Either
sure.
rotaries have been successfully incorporated into surrounding
There's
communities.
a lot of them in Goffstown and New
There is one in
Boston.
Pelham, it's a
Right.
cluster though.
They're little tiny ones. All they really do
Right.
is slow down the traffic.
Right.
right.
So does anybody have any other questions on community design? Again, where we're at today, before we take the next step, we're just trying to see where we are now, right? And what the plans were. We're good?
Yep.
Yeah? You see the rotary? in
still
your-
trying to think of where you'd put a rotary in Litchfield that would be.
I don't know right
It's
now.
hurting my head, it's
Go off
hurting
of
my
it.
head. I
We
don't
have,
know.
we have very few four-way stops that are that busy.
Right.
Besides, like, here, semi-busy, I guess, but it's not.
Well, I would like to have.
Let me see if it jogs my memory, because I
What's
was on that committee.
How to enter a four-way stop and who goes first and like a little educational video I was thinking of doing.
River's Edge.
There you go.
Let me show you that.
Have some comic relief.
Oh, there was a
have
picture of
some
here about
based
the
in
park at
fact.
Liberty Way, where they had the ice skating rink and all that, right?
Now, how much land is back here that is part of this parcel?
Quite a bit.
There's the rotaries right there.
2 acres.
Yeah. couple of-
Is that what we would just add on?
No, that's not in the transportation chapter, but rotaries would help
No, that
minimize
was
traffic
part of
lights
it, but
and a good
Those look like the
alternative.
two
it's gonna
roads on
add
the way
on
to the
fire.
airport.
Yeah, they do.
Like that's the executive
They do.
or something, right?
Yeah. So I just think they're thinking from a community, if you don't want all the lights, traffic lights, this would be a better alternative, but. All right, ready to go on to the big one? Chapter 6. Are we doing okay?
Development.
So far, so good.
So far, so good? All right, I did this one last 2002, so this is 21 years old. That's a long time. I know they had an economic committee.
Reading it.
Yeah, they had an economic committee back then, and some members are still in town. So if we ever had to
Sure
go
they
tap
are.
them. we could probably go talk to them, right? What
Well,
they
as
were
soon as we
thinking.
get the Heritage Committee in, some of them will be here.
When you do
As soon as we
what?
get the Heritage
Heritage
Committee
Commission.
here, some of them will be here. I
Oh,
bet.
there you go. Oh, they were on the economic development?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, but I bet they were.
So what the economic is, they took a step back and looked at a state, what's going on in the state, what's going on in our region, and then what's going on in Litchfield, again, 2002. Back then, manufacturing, education, and government were the top three. Employment, they alter every other year, they flip around. But manufacturing's really where most of the people at that time had jobs that, if they worked in New Hampshire. Manufacturing's also gone very high-tech lately, plus high-tech is also here. So they were anticipating those kind of jobs being available to help economically. So where did these companies go? So they gave a list of the fastest-growing occupations. I think they're still pretty current. They gave statistics on the labor market of Litchfield. So in 1989, they had 3,067 people in the labor market. And in 2001, or something like that, they had 4,150.
What page is
Just
that?
in Litchfield. Okay, if you go to page 8, I'm sorry. Let me go back there. These chapters are flying, huh? All right, we're on chapter 6. And page 8.
Yeah.
So it was a 25% growth on that. Let me just go to that page 8. Let's see if it actually happened. Page is at 22. Let me go up to 8. Yep. Okay. All right.
You don't have COVID.
So page 8, 2 at the bottom. Actually, I'm on page 9 at this point.
Page 9 now, okay.
My page 7 and 8. I'm going back and forth between 7 and 8 and 9 in my comments. Let me just see.
Your largest employer?
Yeah, the largest employer in Litchfield was the school district, which that's probably makes sense everywhere. I'm not sure this Clamoran Rulings Incorporated, are they
As
still
in
around?
BAE.
New England Small Tube is after number 3. I'm not. BAE is for the state. It was one of the top ones, and Compaq and let's see, Passaconaway. Yep. Crofters Pub. They're
Oh my
gone.
gosh, their food was great until it went downhill, until it wasn't.
DLB Paving. I don't know who Consult with a K. Romano's still here, and Wilson's Farm. So those were the top businesses that we
In
had
town.
in town back then.
I like
That's
that.
on page, at the bottom of page 9.
That was where people worked.
So you can see, maybe not a lot high-tech, maybe it's a small tube, I don't know. But it's okay, you need all these kind of
What's
jobs, and
this
they're great.
place?
Yeah, well, good. But that's what, that was a
Clamoran
snapshot in
Sure,
time
sure,
of
I'll
2002.
I have no idea
So
what
let's
that
go
is.
forward. So they're saying, these are the jobs of the future,
Optics
and these are the
manufacturer?
companies we have here, right? So,
That's interesting.
are we ready for that? You'll let her finish your note there. So you see how they're trying to set it up, right? These are the top employees of the state. These are the jobs we see that are coming, and these are the companies you have in your town. So if you want these skill sets to match, maybe it's part of the question, but let's just keep on going. So they went into property taxes on, are you guys okay? All right, I think I'm on page 10 now, property taxes. It looks like at the time, we were number 8 in NRPC's area. Of us and the 13, we're one of the 13 surrounding towns. We're part of Hillsborough, obviously. So our tax rate was 8th, not too bad, out of, 13? Okay, and I'm on page 11. And again, these can fluctuate for many reasons, so I'm not doing a deep dive on some of these numbers, right? But I did like the chart on figure Roman 6-5 called the gross property assessment breakdown. Because it's telling us, I think, if I'm reading this right, who's residential. We're taxing what's residential versus what's commercial on the top, which is this big. So corporations are being taxed this much for our town, and houses are being taxed this much for our town, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's their current assessment at the time. I don't know if it's changed much. I don't think it probably,
We just don't have that
As-
much business.
we don't.
that's
So you
why.
see the residents are big.
Yeah.
But 90%, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so home businesses maybe will be part of the solution, but let's keep going. All right, unfortunately, that farm there is gone, Rodonis, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right there on next page 12, that picture. There's now, I think, DLB, which is good. I actually rent a storage unit from them.
Going great, huh?
All right. So real estate market, this would have been your wheelhouse, right? I don't know if you read any of that, but it seemed to be, let me go back on my notes here. We're on page what now, 13?
13, yeah.
Quite a few.
I'm going to read my note. Okay, I don't know on page 9 what a windshield survey is. Have you ever heard of that? They said when we did a windshield survey. It's on page 9, section 7. I don't know
I'ma
what
Google
that
it.
means.
Wide view?
I don't know. I'm not sure what the terms were they were using back
I
then.
think it's as you drive
windshield
around town.
survey?
I've never. heard
No. It might be.
All
All
right.
right.
Flyer under a wiper.
A windshield survey is a survey performed by health professionals to collect data by literally driving around and look out their windshield to assess people in the
Simple
environment.
guy.
Healthcare professionals use this data to develop a community health plan, so they basically look around and see what they
Observe.
see.
And they know the
Yep.
Hurton house, and they know the, okay, I got it. All right. All right, so, I guess page 10 shows the property. I like that Roman numeral. Page 12, I like the commercial geography of Litchfield. What did I see? Page 12, section 1. Was I happy about that? I guess it was just geography in general.
Yes,
About
describing
3A,
the-
102.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's what
Okay.
this says, that's
All right.
what the next thing on windshield
All
survey
right, so
said.
the commercial real estate, I said, could we improve that there? Section 2, I was wondering if we could improve, meaning this team, if we could make recommendations for that. Again, I did a speed on that, so I'll go back and. So really on the commercial real estate side, it's hard for you to sell something that we don't have, right? So.
Yeah.
That's really, there's room for improvement is what I'm saying. I mean, maybe that's landowners getting together if they want to. I'm not pushing anybody. All right, page 14. They hoped that the Manchester airport that was going in would help our town with, there would be building going on around the airport. They were hoping some of it would spill over here, or at least a support kind of thing.
Warehouse, stuff like that.
And I said the last paragraph of section 3 on page 14, if I can get down there, the future development potential. How did I say there? Yeah, that EWED, that was I think the economic committee back then. The consensus of that team. I asked Jay what that committee was. He was on that committee, by the way.
Economic Development Working Group.
Okay, so I think Jay Mancaro was on that, he wasn't here tonight, but, so, is there attempt, so what were they trying to do? It is a consensus of that project that the participants, if there's any attempt to direct future commercial development in the next 5 years, it should focus on the northern Litchfield, where increased land, when was it? Development activity is already underway. It's also an initiative underway by the selectmen to complete Albuquerque Ave in the north, in addition, that's what you're right?
Yep.
In addition to the Manchester Airport expansion underway just a few miles to the north, while construction of the circumferential highway in the southern part of town has experienced numerous delays. So even back then, they were having delays.
Was on the board since 1955. That
Really?
circumferential-
1955?
Started in the 50s.
Oh, your generation, okay, I'm not going there. All right, but anyway, so what I noticed about
You're
that,
older than me.
the main thing that it jumped out as me is the northern commercial. It's a limited amount of land, but even back then, they were saying that probably had most of the potential for growth, because that was supposed to be landlocked down there with the circumferential highway, right? So that was.
Some of that land has some terrain issues
The northern or the southern?
in the northern, right? So
In the northern.
you have a few parcels
Commercial,
there that,
industrial, or commercial?
in the commercial, that you have a few areas that aren't built up. They're
Hilly.
well, yeah, beyond that.
There's still some
They
land,
have
but there's this land
significant
there that
terrain
can be.
issues.
But, you know, we have landowners up there that do have some property that could be developed. We've seen him come in with projections or ideas, right? Floating them by the planning board. So I think in 21 years, it really hasn't changed too much, and we really couldn't do anything in the southern part of town because up until last year, when that project got shelved and got on the it'll never happen list at NRPC, right? That circumferential highway was still on the table, at least from the state's point, but now it's been shelved. So that's why I think in 21 years, we finally maybe can do something with the south, I don't know, but that just pointed out.
I was at the hearing. It seemed pretty dead at
Okay.
the state.
So Albuquerque North, maybe, they also said that maybe Albuquerque North can do something. All right, page 16, what did I say?
Albuquerque North is where Hidden Creek is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Right across from there.
yep, they can do something in there.
there's that parcel across the street, but it's not a lot, I don't think it's a big piece of land.
Right, so they weren't
They were
happy.
gonna put another 9 holes over there.
Yeah, I don't think he's got enough room.
I don't think so either.
Okay, so we're going back to build-out analysis on page 18, where they start to do scenarios that I think are of interest for infrastructure, right? Sewerage, no sewerage, kind of things. Because are they gonna come here if they can't? You know, we've heard that from a local landowner for a while. So let me go to page 18. It's only 33 pages in this chapter. We're coming to the end, guys.
Almost, we're halfway there.
No, we're almost, let me go to page 33.
We have 33
Did I say
minutes.
33? I said 18. Sorry. 18. There I am.
Fiscal impact.
Okay, so they were trying to say if businesses would come, what would be the impact? Yeah, what would we have to either put in place to get them here, or what would they contribute if they were here? They went through a lot of that, but they also were bringing out the build-out analysis into it, because either they become homes or they become businesses, so they were trying to run numbers that way. Yeah. So that's, if you just look at a lot of charts, you see that. Okay, services. So they were trying to do surveys like 2 to 5 acres. They had 789 acres available at the time. It would take 150 years to build out because we're not getting any businesses here, right? Didn't they do a projection like if we had one business per year come in at so many acres and
Well, you had some,
yeah, we had some. But in 150 years, we're all going to be fossils. So, you know.
because, I mean,
not gonna work.
way back when this was written, they say 92% of the assessments in 99
Mhm.
was residential,
Right.
and we're currently 90.
Don't forget, we have.
Let me hear that
7-Eleven,
again.
Lobster boat.
No, we're currently 90%
Okay.
So we're
residential,
still at 90%.
You dropped 2%.
right,
Yeah, there you go.
Mm.
yeah.
Okay.
So,
But we've had growth.
we're
Commercial growth, yes.
we're 4.2% utilities and 5.38.
Can I write that down again? What was it?
Yeah,
How much was it?
commercial is 5.38%
Nice.
of the total assessment.
Yep.
Residential's 90.41% of,
Mhm.
and utilities is 4.23.
Does this count people who work from home?
So this is what your,
Assessor stuff.
your
Your property
assessment,
taxes
your
are.
property tax,
Okay. All right.
land value.
Because we can have a lot of businesses we just don't know, you know, even though
Correct.
they
Yeah,
registered.
so they won't show up.
But it's been pretty stagnant at that
Yeah.
level since 2017. That's as far back
Okay.
as I went.
Yep.
Doesn't
All right.
move much.
So, but at the end of the day, and people can just drive by the windshield and see that we just don't have a lot of businesses here. Obviously, it's just common that we're seeing that. So they went into cost of infrastructure. They compared us to the town of Shirley, Massachusetts, which is on the 495 belt, and they came up with some statistics on that. That's how they gauged what we might be doing. I wrote down that POFA. They were talking about water costs. Water for us is expensive anyway. For water infrastructure, the POFA says obviously put that to the forefront of our town. It wasn't an issue back then, right? So we might have something that they didn't have to deal with then. So I think we have to keep that in mind. That's also an issue drawing people here, probably, unless we get water and sewer in. I talked about a company called SRF Financing was a way to maybe pay for infrastructure. It is owned and operated by the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services. So if you're maybe looking at water or sewerage, I don't even know if that company exists anymore. Do you ever hear of them?
What was it?
Here on page, I think I'm on page 28 range, 25 to 28. Page 28, they said that they recommended a company called SRF Financing. It's owned and operated by the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services, and if you maybe can get finance.
State revolving fund.
Loan fund.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
state
that's what they were
revolving
saying,
loan
maybe they
fund.
could
Yes,
get loan
It still
fund.
exists.
It does, okay.
Yes.
So if, maybe that's another way to go if we need infrastructure money other than tax impact fees. I'm just throwing things out that they mentioned.
Yeah, it's operated by
They do a
DES.
lot with brownfield sites too.
They do, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't get any grants for that. Jay works on that. but we have to apply too, right? Wilton
Yeah,
got
but
cleaned up on
the-
that, Milford
yeah.
got cleaned up on that. So I don't know, is that something that's worth pursuing? Again, taxpayers obviously have to weigh in on that, but, so that was around page 28. Then they said, maybe from the planning board side, you can have a tax incremental financing district.
TIF.
Is that something I don't think it's gonna bring anybody here if we put it in, but I don't know. I'm gonna take that back. I don't know. So that's on page 28, paragraphs 1 and 2. Again, I'm just trying to look at financing.
I mean, it works well for bigger communities, but you're shifting tax revenue.
Mhm.
I have a qu- I have-
And you want to be really careful when you're a community that doesn't necessarily have the capacity to do that.
Okay, so a company like Bedford, no problem. They went the commercial road, obviously, right? So did you have something, Diane?
I have a question. As far as the impact of businesses in town, it was my understanding that the only revenue that we really got from businesses is them registering their vehicles in town. I mean, do we get tax impact from businesses that are in town? And what kind of tax impact?
Property tax.
Just property tax.
Just
and-
property
and vehicles that are in
taxes.
town, that's about
Yeah.
it.
So what do you get, property tax?
Property tax. Is it
Right.
taxed at a different rate than
But
a
they're,
residence?
yeah, they're assessed at much higher
Okay.
rate.
Their property tax rate's
they're-
higher?
Yeah. So, and you're not getting the
Oh, yeah, we just did that
demand
with
for
Jay.
services that you're
Tax refund,
getting
which we haven't
with
approved
children
yet.
in schools and when you
That's
have
why their
a
impact fee was
commercial
lower
base.
compared to residential.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's public information. We just went through that with Jay, right? The impact fee?
Mhm.
Because it does show what you charge businesses versus,
Ownership.
but again, I don't know about the tax situation. I'm just looking at the impact fee side. I don't know if they actually have different set of taxes.
That's when it
or-
comes out of current use.
Yeah, that I'm not 100% sure of, actually. When it comes out of current use, what
Yeah,
does
there's
that
a cur-
mean
there's a-
financially?
There's an impact fee for current use. It's called, we haven't had any, land use change tax.
Was that a big tax?
That's money that we get for conservation and then a certain amount goes
Okay.
to town.
So
We used to
far-
get it all.
It gets set to the school.
So far for this year, it's 0.
Yeah, well, because we
Okay.
haven't had anything.
All right, so
But when
this
when
TIF,
But
Is
TIF would be good if we
London
want to
gets
go ahead and
built,
start
so
doing sewer or something
BAE
like that.
gets built,
yeah,
gets built
We-
up.
It'd be
that's
nice.
gonna really be what we want. Do we
35
want to be a
a year.
residential town, or do we want to be?
Yeah.
Well, for anything though,
Revenue we haven't got
it had
yet.
that district's taxes would
Yeah.
increase to
Yeah.
compensate for the uses
Yeah.
of that service we
So
provide.
you're right, we're not putting it, if we're gonna do infrastructure, it's not just because we want businesses here, we want it
Right.
for the residents.
Exactly.
But it depends
Yeah,
where we want
that's
to
what
start
I'm-
doing this stuff and where would make sense, which
Right.
our town's kind of
Yeah,
No.
at least it's long and
odd
skinny.
for that.
And flat.
Having a TIF, right? So if we want
Mostly.
to have something, we want to start sewer up north, we're not going to need it again really till this is the south of town. So it's kind of
Yeah.
Difficult.
It would
Difficult.
be difficult
Yeah.
for, I think, to-
Okay.
for-
All right, so let's see, page 29. They did say the school did cost money for the impact fees, which of course it's going to. It wasn't a dig, it's just saying it did. And it said, this one I took out. So they did one with sewer, and was adequate or potential for commercial development to help. So, let's see, I think that the bottom line they said they wanted is if you go, they wanted high-quality commercial development with high property values. That was their goal. So you saw that as well, right?
Yep.
So, that's hard, we don't have anybody here yet, but that's the goal, right? Which, why would a business walk into wanting to pay? They want high property value maybe, but not to pay all the taxes on it.
But if you look at their conclusion,
Mm-hmm.
their conclusions are right on, and this is what
That's like page 29
we're
or 30.
not doing.
That was on page 29, last paragraph. We're not doing what? We're bringing in
If
different
you,
businesses.
you can't sit back and let this happen. You have to develop a branding strategy, and
Yep,
you have
it's
to
coming
go out and market and
Yep.
bring the businesses that you want
Right.
into town, and
Yep.
we
There's a
haven't
couple of
really-
areas
we
we need
haven't
to
really
do
done
better.
that.
No, we haven't. That's on page 31, and yeah,
right.
that's that list there.
And that's when, so if you look at, Wyndham, Pelham, a lot of these smaller communities, they've developed these type of committees
Right.
to work with people to put that type of information together.
So somebody gave them the initiative to do that, but we don't even know if our voters want us to do that yet, not voters, but residents, so.
They always seem to want more restaurants.
Yeah.
They want our
Chinese food
restaurants
delivery.
to succeed, but we seem to go through more restaurants than
Yeah.
most.
It was funny, when I was reading on page 30, 31, it's wrapping up, it's only went to page 33. It did say do an economic committee, do the PR and marketing, high-quality economic planning and decision-making. So that means if they set a strategy, we have to reinforce it on the planning
Yeah.
board side, right? We would need zoning for that. And then be in line and lockstep with the regional plan, again, so when we don't go a direction where the other 12 towns are going this way, to really think about it. I was thinking of back in business SWOT. Do you remember SWOT? Strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? We should do the same thing here. What are our strengths in Litchfield? What are our weaknesses in Litchfield? What are the opportunities and what are the threats? And look at that.
It's kind of cool.
And, and I think there's one more page, and then I'll be quiet. Last page.
It's tied to the other bridge, though,
Let me see
They
the last
keep
page.
talking about this conclusion that there was gonna be another bridge on the south end of town, across to
Right.
Merrimack or Nashua.
Yep.
Because there's one way in to Litchfield, two ways in,
Yeah.
right? 3A and 102.
What are they gonna do on that bridge? The one that we rely on? Don't they have to fix that?
No,
The
no,
one
this,
between National and Hudson?
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been talking about it forever.
But look, I'm not saying
Talk
it's,
about
it's in rough
rotaries.
shape. If you're in a canoe and you look
That
up, don't
whole
look
area.
up.
That
that's a
area.
fairly new bridge.
Could be a
Because
rotary.
I was thinking we needed that other
Yeah,
bridge,
the
because
plan
that other
was
one's
to
gonna be
pass the state.
down for a while when they
Money.
fix it.
They were
So
figuring out.
what happened to that? Were they gonna have a bridge in Litchfield crossover?
It
or
was gonna
Hudson?
go, I think it was in Hudson, no, it was still, I think, part of Litchfield, and it was gonna go across to Merrimack.
Oh, was that part of the circumferential highway?
Yes.
That was part of the circle.
Okay, that I know about.
You know
Now
where the-
I know where that is. Okay.
Know where the Henryburg Highway is?
No, I'm sorry, I don't.
And it's right before the Merrimack line in Nashua.
Okay.
So the plan was to hook onto the end of the Henryburg Highway and
Yep.
come across on a bridge into Litchfield. The only problem with that is if you had a plan to do that, you probably shouldn't build residential neighborhoods all along that area.
Buying off road.
So they would have had to take
They would have eminent domain.
many houses by eminent domain.
Okay.
And virtually most of those homeowners stormed the State House.
Okay.
It should have.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And there was environmental,
There was some sort of animal over there too, that was a problem.
there's some type of
Bird.
eagle, type of.
Invite animals.
And
Big
then there
plovers.
was, some of that land's contaminated on that side of the,
America side?
river, on the national side of the river. So there were environmental, so there was a lot of things working against it, but,
So it just
so
was
then
shut
they
down.
thought they'll go into Merrimack.
Yep.
Right, go further up, away from the residential neighborhoods. But now that's been built.
Right.
So there's apartments going up all along that side, so now I don't know where they would go.
Maybe not.
By the, what
By
used to be the
old
silo.
VA,
Yeah,
but on
over
the
there.
opposite side.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if that's Flatley or the other one,
We'll talk
One of the
about
big
Merrimack in a
developers.
second.
but, it is a big issue because you have everyone from Hollis and South Nashua and that area over there on the western side coming across, gets on Route 3, gets off at Broad Street or Amher Street,
Mhm.
goes through the residential neighborhoods to get over to come across the Hudson Bridge. And because a lot of people now, work in Londonderry, and what's the Londonderry, Hudson, this area, what's the alternative? You go all the way up Route 3 and then all the way down, I mean. So, there's a lot of traffic.
Right.
Through residential neighborhoods to get from Route 3 to to the Hudson Bridge. To get over to this side of the.
Well, there's a need, obviously, yeah. So it's just wrapping up on the last page. I thought we could do some of these bullets. I thought they might have been okay. I thought they were interesting. Promote a Litchfield Economic Growth Center, and that one I wasn't too sure of, but overhaul of the transportation impact fees. We're looking, hopefully, I don't think we have any on our list, do we? Do you see transportation fees on the, I don't see them on the, I want to make sure I'm looking at the right report.
No.
So, I mean, we'd have to justify to the users why, I keep saying users because I'm a software developer. Anyway, to the voters, what the impact fee would be for, right? It'd have to be something for transportation, so. But if that's the way we need to look at 20 years out, that's something.
Could you say it's, in a roundabout way, do we have at least an impact fee that covers our roads, because we have the highway?
Well, we do have the highway impact fees, right?
Right,
So you say
so-
make a separate light item?
Well, I mean, I'm saying that in a way, isn't that feeding transportation, because those impact fees can be used
double
for
taxing.
anything to do with roads.
As long as we're not
Roads,
double taxing
bridges.
anybody. But yeah, I agree. There could be just saving money up for these issues, or when we have to do engineers involved to look at it. I liked, what did I say, 2 that we could do? That was the impact fee. 3, I thought we could do. Special zoning and fiscal policies for selected business development. But again, they have to be attracted here, and I just don't think they are at the moment. Let's see. Cultivate home businesses, I thought we could do. Yeah? And we're pretty good. When they come in on the planning board for home office, we're pretty good. We want them to be successful. We don't want a problem there. Light warehouses we liked, light industrial we liked, office parks, agricultural, yeah. So, affordable housing, everybody wants that. So, that's what I got out of that. Did anybody else see anything big that's, I mean, I didn't get into the numbers of a sewer versus non-sewer, but
Yeah.
they actually, I think the conclusion was they were almost pretty tied, right? And I actually wrote down what came in tied, just so they know. We've got to find it because I was talking too much, I think. But anyway. Yeah, so water infrastructure. I don't know. But anyway, you saw the same thing I did, right? Whether we had sewer or not sewer, it really didn't impact the finances too much with the current zoning that we had, right?
Right.
You did see the same thing. So do we pay for it? Yeah, we're trying to justify paying for it if we don't see a big impact. But
Well, it also
we may
mentions-
now.
It also mentioned doing sewer in town or outsourcing to a next, a
Right.
neighboring town too, so.
Yeah, so at the time that this was written, there was some discussion about hooking up to Hudson and Hudson to Nashua's wastewater.
Mhm.
That capacity doesn't exist
Yeah.
today.
Okay.
It's
That's out
tapped.
altogether.
It's
Yeah.
tapped.
So it's all in-house with us, that's it. Yeah. So you need more land, everything else too.
So you brought up Merrimack just a few minutes ago. So whatever we try to strategize, we have to think of the towns around us and what they're doing. And Merrimack is building. And they're going to zoning, and what was supposed to be commercial, they're saying, build apartments. So all along that side of the river now,
There's a
more
ton
people
of
are coming in when it was supposed to be industrial, right, or commercial. So zoning has a lot of power, and that's good, because if zoning says something, by the time it comes to the planning board, we have to honor it. Of course we do, not a problem with that, but, so, my point is Bedford really went and bet their farm, literally, and made a very commercial town. And the assets of that town, if you look at the worth of the town when they add up the buildings and everything, I mean, versus Litchfield. So they bet on commercial, and it worked for them. Merrimack seems to be going that same way, and you could just throw a rock over the river and they're right there, right? So they're not that far. So I'm just saying, what are the surrounding towns doing? Nashua. Hudson is very big compared to us. It's almost like, I would say a 2/3 ratio, like maybe more. So Hudson's growing, right? So here we are, very small town, surrounded by Nashua and Manchester, two big.
Those other towns have a lot more land mass than we do, right?
They do
And
have
they're
a lot
on major
more.
highways.
But they're also doing
we have
more
zero.
commercial.
So,
Exactly.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, that's what's around us, and they're gonna look at Litchfield and say, hey, maybe I wanna live there, you know.
right,
that's-
escape that.
That's what I'm saying, so maybe. But again, towns have made the risk to bring in more commercial. They're transforming. And I don't know if that was an economic decision, or it just happened organically, just grew that way. but
They have the
by luck,
space,
it went
they have
that
the
way.
road for it. You know,
It's
we
an
have,
economic decision.
yeah,
So it was an actual, we're going to take this strategy. All right.
definitely Bedford, yeah.
And I like Bedford. I thought when I first moved here, like, it was like farmland and cute, and I'm like, they're ruining their town, they're ruining their town. But all of a sudden, you take a turn, it's farm, and then all of a sudden, every store you want, you know, so they kept a balance. So I don't know if we really can do that, just looking at the resources we have for available land, right? That's
Yeah,
number
well,
one.
so
What are the
some-
resources we have for land, number one, right? Doesn't look like there's much.
So,
That's number one, not
I mean,
that,
we have BAE coming in. I know Rick talked about leaving
Mm-hmm.
part of it open so that he could do maybe a restaurant or something at the very end of it across from that area.
Mhm.
It
a good
definitely
idea.
seems like it was put in there kind of haphazardly, all that Litchfield businesses that are there, just kind of
yeah.
plopped there.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's where the business section was allowed in Litchfield.
Yeah, but it
because
kind of
it's
seems
basically on the
plopped
Hudson
into
line.
it as opposed to like a.
Yeah, I don't think there was a whole lot of thought
Strategy.
there.
Yeah. There was a road I used to love traveling when I lived in Mass, and it was a nice road, and little strip malls were going in, but I didn't go there for 30 years. I went down there. Some of them face this way, some of them are this way. It's just a horror show
A
because they
hodgepodge.
didn't do it right, like you said.
Yeah.
It was just awful. So, yeah.
There is ways to do things that make them more attractive to the people that live in them, but 102 definitely isn't.
Well, and I think Hollis does a good job with
They
their
do.
businesses.
Hollis is very pretty.
What they allow,
Right.
the gas station, even the gas station at the end of, by the bookstore, looks like a country store, but it's a gas
We
station.
approached the gas station about that. We got kind of in some trouble for that. I guess.
So
So we
you're
did
right,
approach-
which I've seen this because where other states I've lived, and it might have looked remote and cute on the outside and real country, but they made a lot of money on the inside, so you
Which
can
is
still make
fine.
it look
Yeah.
any way you want. But so I guess what I'm asking is, I've seen the surrounding towns making economic decisions. Obviously, if you know more than I do on that, which you probably do because you talk to all the town administrators, I think we're gonna have to make one, or the voters here, not us, but the voters are gonna have to decide.
Well, at least we can, but they need something presented. to
Yeah,
them
they
that
do,
can-
absolutely. So again, before we even start, I'm just saying, where are we today and what are people around us doing? Not that we have to follow that, but I just want to understand some of the decisions, not in a vacuum. So that's what I have, so I don't know if anybody else, again, tonight's
So I
meeting
don't-
was current assessment of where we are.
I don't think you want a repeat necessarily of the last 10 years.
The 10 years, why do you say that?
Because you had these spurts, right? So you had spurts with like Firefly, Horizon, Kalawa Circle, but that was it. Big spurt comes in, and you had between like 2019, 2021, and that was the growth that you see in the past.
We still had the
10
fifth
years.
over
But it's
55.
residential.
Some of that was COVID, though. I
And
mean,
some.
the big moves
But
in
we also
town
had the
were
over
COVID.
55.
But they were also
so
residential.
big. Boom. I mean, Roland Bergeron loved
Although,
those over
we had, what was that
55s.
restaurant over at Mel's?
Yeah,
But
they
you know
all
what?
kind of came in
Mel's
at once.
restaurant there.
Day of the Dead?
Yeah, they've done okay. So, but the big ones you just mentioned were residential.
They're all residential, but, so, as we look towards the next 10 years, when we talk about the BAE property and Corning Farm, and
Mm-hmm.
that can't be it,
Right,
Why?
because it's not it's not sustainable.
yeah, that's the
What do you
build-out.
mean?
Your tax
Tax
rate,
wise.
your tax rate's not sustainable.
And-
You've lost, this is the first year, from the data that I've gone back, but it's definitely the first time I've ever seen it. You lost value.
So when
Total
I said the
assessment
total
of the
value of
town.
Bedford, I went
Total
before and
value of
after I
Is
went.
that because BAE closed down?
No, it's because this is the assessment of the land. So, even if BAE had left, they would sell the land. It still has an assessment, so, that wouldn't do it. What has happened is, if you don't have significant growth meaning you're building homes, or you're building businesses, or you're developing land, in the last, since 2018 to 2023, utilities were reassessed with House Bill 700. So your utilities lost value because they were reassessed.
And what do you mean by utilities? You're saying that our
that's-
infrastructure?
Energy, North,
I just want them to
Liberty,
know out there.
Pennachuck, yeah.
Okay.
So there was a big push back in 2017, and they formed a big study on the assessment of utilities and how they should be assessed. Because you're looking at poles, easements and things of that, and how much value does that have? And they worked
Increased
a whole.
Pennachuck, though. I mean, Pennachuck got how many more new customers because of St.
But
Gobain's?
Customers doesn't affect.
Talking about the utilities infrastructure?
Okay. So passing more homes.
And you have to remember, so that anything that Pennachuck did as a result of the PFAS was infrastructure paid by St. Gobain.
Would still add value to our town.
It's not Pennachuck's infrastructure. It's not, it doesn't have a cost basis for Pennachuck. So, I mean, as we look at some of these things for the water study that we're doing, that's gonna be a plus for Litchfield, because there's not going to be a cost basis for us if we decided we wanted to buy Pennachuck. Because that infrastructure was paid by St. Gobain, not Pennachuck. So, the utilities being reassessed brought down their valuation, but we had no growth to offset it. So we netted this year, lost a little bit over $500,000 in assessment.
But with a small town like Litchfield, where there's so much less buildable land, isn't that going to happen? I mean, with the exception of, like, now we'll be having our biggest, well, and then there's 3, but we'll have our biggest multifamily units ever in town go in.
That will help. That's 4 years out though to completion.
Yeah,
The last couple of years we haven't a whole lot of stuff happening
that's right.
in town.
And it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard to maintain a tax rate that.
Right. Without redevelopment into more effective use of space.
So that's why I get afraid if, 13% interest, employee contracts, just our budget just keeps going up every year. And our taxes have to keep going up. And if nobody new moves to town or no businesses are here, or we hit build out and we can't collect anymore,
results in
our taxes go
people
up,
paying
up,
more.
up, up, a bit more, right?
To maintain
And
services.
you won't be able to afford to live here.
Must be health services.
So
Yep.
I'm actually hearing that from other town, believe it or not, somebody in Bedford. They said they can't afford the tax bill anymore.
Brookline.
They can't afford the tax
It's-
bill.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Bedford's taxes were
That's
always
another,
up.
yeah,
So they're moving because not the mortgage, the tax bill,
yes.
because they might have inherited the house,
Well, we were
whatever.
looking for homes to purchase, and
Yeah.
we were looking at the tax rates as well, and Litchfield was very attractive with the tax rate that it was.
But it
and we-
didn't
and we
have a
knew-
lot of services.
Yeah.
We knew that the high school
Very
was coming in,
beautiful,
it
but
had been voted
don't call
in. We
911.
knew that was coming in, we knew there was gonna be an increase.
Mhm.
But when we were looking, it was still, we compared all the towns around here, and Litchfield was extremely attractive, and even though the services that you're talking about, for the most part, weren't services that we felt like we needed to have in town. We weren't moving to a town that had those services, we knew we'd have to get them outside,
And to some extent, but you also pay for those services even when you're getting them from the outside.
Mm-hmm.
So that means, us sitting down and negotiating a contract with Hudson for our ambulance.
Ambulance,
And-
fire, police help, all that stuff.
Right.
And it's sometimes more costly to go outside
Right.
than it is to have it inside. It depends on the service. There's,
Yeah.
ambulance is one you don't have much choice.
I remember a discussion with
Because the
chief.
cost for an
Yeah.
inside is just astronomical.
For our
Yeah.
use,
An
our
ambulance
use
is
case, we
300
just,
grand.
yeah, that's doable.
So, but they're definitely, as more developments come in, you have to have a very delicate balance of the services that are needed and the improvements that are gonna need to be made and what your future development is after these. Because you could be right back in the same boat you are now.
Yeah.
Right? If you have no other development, now you've got more needs for services because these people came in, right? So that's creating some need
More cost,
and no plan.
cover the cost.
Right.
And we can't have impact fees cover that whole thing.
Yeah.
It won't even touch the, that's turning into a wish list for
There are
people.
many communities in New Hampshire that have moved away from impact fees for
But-
that.
We can't even be sustainable right now, because option one, do nothing. That's not gonna be an option, but just to be sustainable, it's just gonna be expensive. So I don't, and again,
Yes.
we have a limited
Yeah.
resource of land
Right.
that's zoned that way. Changing zoning, I think, would require a lot, because people have deeds and things set up certain ways, right? So, and it's not us, it's up to the voters, but you don't just go with a pen stroke and change it, oh, you're now residential. It doesn't happen, you know?
So you're right, you have to look at, so
What do we have to work
there's
with?
Little over 9,000 acres with a little, almost 3,700 not developed. Not saying those could be developed because there's a lot of water
There is,
area in
that's what-
Litchfield, right? So,
There's a lot of agricultural land that we want to keep agricultural land.
so
You're not going to change
really-
my opinion on that.
Yeah, but that, they
You
get into
really
that
We
fight
also
in-
have a
on
lot
this
of
master plan.
wildlife in town that you keep moving these animals, and they're gonna keep bumping out into people's houses. And that's a problem too, you can do, I mean, people see a coyote in this town, they flip out. It's like, guess what? You just put in 3 houses over here, they used to live there. They're not gonna go there anymore because they don't, somebody else is living there, they're gonna bop out all over. Same thing with deer, same thing with, I mean, we used to have moose in town. We don't, because we don't have large enough areas to accommodate them any longer. So we have to balance that when you're looking at the other questions that you have. It's not just, you can just take all this land and build it, or put businesses in it. To use it more efficiently, I think, is what we need to find a way to do with the type of town that we have. I mean, we run along a beautiful river.
So to use it more efficiently.
So that we don't do what happened on 102, where we've got to plop a business here, plop a business there, plop a business there, and it's not attractively done.
It seems to be the residential, the commercial, the agricultural, and the conservation. We're all gonna go for those same resources. That's what's gonna happen. That's why you're saying we need the balance. I agree.
We definitely need a
We
balance.
need a balance, but these,
But you're
they're
looking at-
coming at us,
you're
right?
Yeah, but you're looking at, so financially, this is gonna happen, and I'm looking at conservationally, all of these animals live in this other area that you're talking about building. What's gonna happen to them? Where are they gonna go?
No, I would
We have
not.
to redevelop different areas, but that's gonna,
Yeah.
require lots of town agreement
Yeah.
on what's gonna have to change to be more useful and effective.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
You need to find a balance. It's all about balance.
Well, agriculture and
That's why
conservation can
and that's why
overlap.
every board's
They
represented,
can,
because
if
everybody
done
has
properly,
their
yeah.
own
It is
little.
why.
So that's a
Yeah,
good.
and that's so smart,
We're not,
it's really smart that we're all,
but here's what we're not doing, and was one of the reasons the board put this together. We're not thinking collectively in, okay, where are the areas? What do we want? What can we do? And then
if you wanted a- if you
everyone
want- if
operate
we as
on
a
the
town-
same road plan, right?
if
And
we as a
that's what
town
has to be
wanted
done.
a mall, we could have put it in where BAE is, but that wasn't something that we approached or talked about, or, I mean, malls aren't even doing well. So many things are being bought
So-
online.
Yeah, and
You
then
know,
what?
so many
You're
businesses
competing
are-
with Hudson
Yeah,
right down the
they
road.
have
Yeah,
everything
I don't think malls are the thing to
Londonderry
do.
right down the road that way.
So that works in our
What
favor,
kind of
actually.
businesses? What
That
kind
works
of-
in our favor. We
Yeah.
don't have to
I
have.
don't think you need them all.
No, I'm not saying mall, I'm just saying businesses at most towns have a bank, a restaurant, yeah.
Right.
And I like the restaurants, but I'm just saying, we don't need to have a lot of it here, which is good.
It'd be
We
great
don't have to have
Agreed.
economic, because
But if
it's,
we had,
on both ends of
some,
the
you'd have
town.
more than one reason to
Right.
come to town, versus now you just come to Mel's, or you come to get blueberries and you leave. If we can make something for people to come to town and have 2 or 3 stops in town the same day.
Then it helps every business that's in here.
Correct.
To watch Heather go out of business at, next to the Litchfield
Mhm.
Field Food Mart was sad to
Right.
me.
Exactly.
You know, she put a ton into that herself.
So we can find ways to redevelop and make that more economical, do more, maybe the Hollis route and have tastefully
I
designed,
like that.
maybe multi-level buildings to have people living above or office above and retail below, whatever, in small New England style buildings
Right.
that would fit our town profile properly.
Right.
That'd be our better way to go. Once again, we gotta figure out how we can approach the town to kind of go that route in certain spots.
Right.
You're gonna have to
So,
show
but
the
once you
businesses
come
that
up
there's
with-
enough traffic to go by their business to do it.
Correct, which once
Well, and
again,
I
we
was-
have,
Mel's draws people in,
right,
right? Mel's and Pescaconaway and Hidden Creek bring people from
exactly.
out of town to come, so,
it's seasonally.
But
right.
I
What
was
are they
talking to
doing?
Christy though at McQuestion, right? And we were talking about the other farms, and I was like, well, there's less competition. She goes, well, that's not really how this works. So people would come into town and they'd go to McQuestion,
absolutely.
and they'd go to Wilson, and they'd go to Boucher's, you
Yeah,
know,
help
they'd
them all
go to
out.
Redonis.
Yep.
You know, so they'd do like that agricultural thing. So,
Yep.
you know, to try and get that back would be good for the other towns. I mean, you can't even get into McQuestion during corn season,
Right.
you know, but it would be really nice if, like, I know everybody wanted
Who's
Wilson
gonna
to.
do that? You, even then, you'd have to have a marketing
Well,
plan,
so there
and
was
you'd have
a-
to go scope out those.
There was a promote agricultural and recruit agricultural businesses, farm to table, which is a lot more attractive than a mall, you know, and it is a lot more what people in town would use more of. They can get to a mall, but to go to
Right, I said
a
that,
nice
but-
farm to table, you gotta go, you know, half hour in the car to do that. But there is a portion, there was a portion on there of recruiting, because there's land that's gonna be turning around, and we're gonna need to be able to recruit people to come in and farm it. You know, and those farm to tables are no-brainers. They're popular, they're something that's sustainable.
Yeah. Well, we're trying to work on that. That's public, right? We had meetings on the,
Yeah,
trying to get the
you,
farmer
uh,
market.
Yeah,
Any of
well,
you guys
and
watch
you're talking about-
Amazon,
it was
watch
in one.
Clarkson's Farm?
Yeah,
Great show.
Oh, isn't that
Yeah.
awesome?
it
Unbelievable.
is.
I know.
And-
I
Seen
crack
that?
up watching that.
Clarkson's Farm, Jeremy Clarkson from Top
who's on
Gear,
Top Gear. The British
stopped doing
version.
Top Gear, and now he has a
now owns
farm.
and he makes every
in
mistake in
England,
the book.
and
Deals with the
he's
planning.
very
It's funny.
charismatic, as we all know.
Yeah.
And his stuff is just nuts, and
He's getting
it
stopped.
draws people. Well, he's an icon, so he draws people
But
naturally.
it's also not a totally traditional farm, right? He's been
Right.
very creative.
It's not.
And that's what
He
has
he has
to be
no.
done.
He has unlimited budget, which
Yeah.
is whatever. But
Yeah.
we already have the people in town and the land here that's not really being used as much as anymore.
It could
Now
be-
we can give them
could be
ideas how to
more.
do this. It might be a way to spark new interest in those areas of town.
Right. I
Exactly.
mean, it's kind of why we
And that
brought
still
up
keeps us who
the
we are.
farmers market. We
Yeah,
brought
that-
that up, and we said, yes, we need farm to table type of restaurants. People will drive
Correct.
for those.
Yeah, for the experience.
Right? You go
And they still give us the
Church
face
Street
of where Litchfield.
in Burlington, Vermont, right? The farm to table restaurant, the line's 3 blocks down the road every single night.
If
But
we, had,
it's-
if we had a winery, it'd be great.
Working on it.
That's
I'm working with the
You know,
town.
maybe a microbrewery, you know, something like that.
Right.
Bring people in. They can also serve food.
But and they're growing their own hops in the fields and things like
Exactly.
that. I mean, all of a
Just
sudden
reuse
you've
what we already have.
recaptured what Litchfield is, as opposed to trying to make it something it's not, and trying to, you know,
But here's what they need. In order to be able to attract the businesses you want, The town's gotta have a dedicated plan, put a marketing plan around it,
You also have
And
to work
then
with the people that own
work
the
with the
land.
planning board to make sure that they're gonna be able to walk in this room, go through a process easily, go to the building department, walk through that process easily, because businesses they're not gonna spend
I
the
agree.
time.
I agree, I watched
For this
the one
monkey
with the Barons fail for a number of reasons. I watched it and I was like, wow, this is gonna be really hard for them to make this work. And sure enough, they looked at it and thought the same thing. They had to share a driveway with St. Francis. That was unattractive
Right.
for a business to have to do.
In
But
in
if
their
we-
case.
But if
That's
we
one of the
put a
reasons-
big restaurant back there that was gonna operate at a
We'd have
different-
totally different hours. That'd be fantastic.
totally different hours than St.
Correct.
Francis.
That would work out well.
You know, I mean, there's,
that's
but that's
what-
being creative, you know, and that's, I guess, what we're gonna have to do and still be Litchfield. As opposed to, you know, put in 25 subdivisions that all of a sudden just all look alike and they're not
And that's one of the reasons we
doing
went
anything but draining the
to the
community.
selectmen, Monday night and said, we need to rethink how we're doing these things. We can't have a planning department that's, open 12 hours a week. We need to have a system where planning, probably working at some point towards a full-time planner, where planning, building, fire, police, those are the services that a plan has to go through.
Right.
Here, we need to make that process a lot more friendly than it is now.
Yeah, well, we could probably speak to Jay when he's here again and discuss, what towns have that level of infrastructure built in as far as employees to handle that load, and where are we on that scale? Are we ready for this now? If we are,
No, we're over.
If we're over, we have to go in-
Our population is over
Right.
where it would be.
so if that's the case, then we have to
For
make a
that
plan
type
for
of
this and
thing.
add that to what we're doing now to get
We're
it
paying
done.
him a lot of money to do it. I thought you were asking, do we have people to do it? We don't. We have to pay him.
Right, so we should definitely. do that.
Sorry. They
But if we go back to Kim's SWAT thing here, strength weaknesses, we add the strength of the farm agriculture now. Take that from
Sorry,
a not really being used weakness now, and think, okay, let's go farm to table, let's go with microbrewery, all this stuff, and use part of that land to do this,
And then
and then it becomes a strength.
Then go out and market. Then go out and market. Litchfield is good for
Exactly.
Sorry, guys.
these types
And the
of
microphone.
businesses. We are the best for
We are
your
the
buck
place to be.
because of this,
Yep.
and this.
And once we get this ball rolling, it'll go by itself.
And then you don't destroy the town in the process.
Just
So it becomes even more attractive.
You have
More
new
attractive to live in,
residents.
more attractive to do business in. But we have a road problem. That is a road problem, 3A. I mean, it's got a
what
lot
way?
of traffic on it as it is.
But we still need other businesses other than that. That's not gonna carry the town of 13%, but it's definitely a good chunk of it. It would be helpful to have.
Correct.
It could be a-
Corridor.
In that
That's
corridor, it's the only way I see being able to breach that corridor.
I mean, you have some,
An
especially
agricultural
southern
corridor.
New Hampshire right now. You have developers looking for every square inch
Yes,
of
you do.
every
Oh my
piece of
God, they're
land
going
that
through
they can
the
find
books.
to
Yep.
build houses. Because they're gonna get, if they build the right type of housing, they're gonna get money handed to them to do it.
But then we have
It's
to,
just a
we
fact.
have to support all of that. In businesses, we don't.
We have a lot of empty real estate for businesses already, right? They're vacant.
Correct, but once again, if we redevelop those locations, it might change things.
Right.
So the locations aren't great, and the way it's developed now is not great.
So how much available land is zone business in Litchfield?
It was in here, wasn't it? It was,
Yeah,
it was listed in
So,
here.
I don't recall.
Oh, I've only got, there's a little over 36,
so many
but I don't know
acres
how much,
listed.
3,600 that are
That's undeveloped,
undeveloped.
but
I
that's
don't
the whole
know
town,
how
right?
much of that is commercial in the commercial
Yeah, I would
zone.
have to break that up, but I thought I saw
Probably
some
not much.
statistics in
Yeah.
here.
Probably
I think
not.
identifying the lot, and again, I'm not against the business, the
Is
landowner
Nash
at all,
property commercial?
Well, the
It's their
landowners-
land.
The landowners have to know that
Yeah,
they're,
and some of them want to
they're gonna
develop.
get fair
Some
market
don't.
for their,
I think that might be residential.
need to be protected as well.
That's a big portion.
So we see what the master plans were and what this projected 7 to 10 years out, right?
Right.
We're in lockstep with NRPC overall. Because with the other small towns there, yes, there's Hudson and Nashua, they're the big ones. But we have Mount Vernon, Leidenborough, Wilton, you know, so we have a gamut, we're in the middle, right? So we're in the region, we're still working with them. So, again, I guess we have to decide what resources we have. It looks like 4 groups are gonna go after it, right, that land, right? And we're gonna have inside and outside influences we have to be aware of. Yeah, outside money, inside pushes, whatever's happening. I'd like the agricultural corridor, I think that's good. An economic strategy is probably gonna be needed. I think if you just explain to the town the numbers, you know, can we even deliver a budget on time?
They're gonna have a lot of the same questions I asked you.
Oh, yeah.
Because we
What's
don't,
important?
we don't understand.
Because they
you
may
know,
say no.
I don't understand.
We could have this grand master plan, and they say, no, we don't want it.
Because they
We're
don't,
back
because
here
they have the
going,
same questions
What do
I
we do?
You know, why?
Well, right now,
And they're gentle questions, but
Yeah.
they come from, I come from this background,
Yeah.
you come from this background, you know, and not just as far as what our roles are in the town, from our roles are in work and background and all those kind of things, and why we came here.
Yeah.
You know, why do we pick Litchfield?
And we want to think 100 years out, not 100, it's going to happen, they're thinking 20, but we want to think longer
I would
term.
be happy
I don't
to
want
get
to be
to
putting a
next
fire
week.
out, and we're, like you said, we're back here in 20 years,
Well,
right?
I'd like
We
somebody to
don't
look
know.
back in
Buried in
20
dead
years
today.
and think that we thought this out and did a good
I
job.
thought
How
they did
long
a
have
great
you
job
lived
with
here?
what they had here.
I built in '08, so 15 years now.
So, you know, and one of the things that Jay and I said when we were talking to the selectmen was you can't make the decisions here.
Nope.
That's way too quick. There's a lot of going out into the community
Number
and
2.
having community conversations, because there's a whole lot of people that live in this community that you never hear from, right? They might drive in and live here, but work in
Bedroom
Boston
community,
or
yeah,
right.
bedroom community.
And so you need to get a sense of what they want,
Right.
and what their ideas or needs are.
Yep.
And which is sometimes hard, right?
But we
we
need to-
talk about how many people come to a selectmen's meeting, right? It's just, you know, no.
That's number 2 here, on how we're going to work on the survey, and, but you're right, we're going to get brilliant ideas from them, and good feedback.
That's right.
And we're like, we never thought of that, or, you
And
know,
you'll be
I welcome it, I
surprised.
can't wait to
They'll-
hear it.
That it could
But we
come-
also have to have ideas for them too, because I think that, a lot of what we did when we did the What's Up, survey, that was absolutely fantastic. It was the first time anything had brought, the What's Up page brought this town together in a lot of ways. But it was the first time that we were able to present ideas to the community and really get feedback and use that feedback to make change. And I think that what we did though is we didn't just say, what do you want? We said, hey, if it was between this and this, which would you rather have? If it was between this and this, what would you rather have? So people could kind of envision things that they hadn't thought of before.
Give them a starting point.
A starting point, but also just like, I mean, like the river walk that appears on that. The first time I ever heard somebody talk about the river walk wasn't on this master plan. It was Jason Brennan and I talking about trying to connect different lands and trying to make it through so that it would become an attractive place for people to come and do, like they go into Derry to start there for the rail trail, or they go into Salem to start there. That was the first time I had heard that. And I was like, wow, what an incredible place to walk, what an incredible place to walk with children, to see what's going on behind all those houses that we drive by on this side. But those kind of things, to be able to, I don't think you can just go out into the community and say, what do you want? Because I think they're like, I want peace on earth. You know, I want to be able to get more sleep. I want my kids to be better at school. You know, there's a lot of things that they want, but to be able to come together and look at our other communities that are around us, like you said, and offer those options will be more fruitful.
I think
So,
And have a place for other, to get some of the
economic
creativity.
economic development surveys, generally when you go out into the community, are asking very specific questions and giving some sort of multiple choice
Yeah.
type of answers, right?
Yeah.
So you're asking them to choose, of these 5 things, what are the 1 and 2 most important to you? That it's that
Polls,
type of
yeah.
survey. It's never just an open-ended question,
Right,
right?
Yeah,
There's
okay.
always an answer.
okay.
But then you're also allowing some sort
Of other,
conversation
Mhm.
so that they can ask questions of you and you can give them answers, because just like we said at the beginning, how many times have you heard that Litchfield had this great explosion in the last 5 years?
I didn't hear that, I heard it differently. I heard actually that, that in those years where we had those 600 or 580 and 620, I had heard that those numbers were stagnant and that it all happened in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And in actuality, it didn't.
Yeah.
So it was the opposite, that things have become more stagnant. And possibly that's because we have less land to look at. There's a lot of possible reasons why that is. And we also have new build coming in that's larger than what we've done in the last 10 years, that's gonna be happening in the next 5. So I'm less nervous about it than you are.
But I don't think people will know that. That's my point.
Yeah.
So it's
Unless
our
you have
job
the
to
data.
educate
Yeah, unless you have the
them
data. Yep.
and let
On
them
that
ask
same vein, we
questions.
should dig into what you said a minute ago, is that first year in a while of having a devaluation in the town, essentially.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay, now we extrapolate, next 4 years, we have all the building happening next 4 years now. Where will we be in 4 years? Are we
Right.
still upside down? We can't be upside down. So, show that, and then here's the poll. If we keep
Right.
down this path, we're in trouble. Your tax will go from this to now this. Or we can change and have a chance to change how,
They're gonna understand graphs and numbers. They'll see.
Correct, but we have to lay out the
Oh, yeah.
numbers.
They're gonna go
for 'em.
boom,
Oh, yeah.
boom, boom, yeah.
So,
And we want it to be as straightforward as possible,
Just clean and
because
simple.
we don't want it to be manipulative.
Because
Understand.
a lot of people, I think when people understood, when we went and we had conversations with people about the tax cap, when you show them numbers, they could get it, right? $175,000 flat fee
Was not gonna work.
is not sustainable in any way, shape, or form. And they got it. Same thing with this. You got to show them the numbers. I mean,
I think you also
most people
need to
don't look at it.
traditionally look, that Litchfield can be a very knee-jerk reaction town. The reason that tax cap was put into place was to take care of a particular problem. Unfortunately, it's lasted way after that particular problem was over.
After that, for years after.
yeah.
Yeah,
so-
but I think, I don't know, I see the community as a group of very intelligent people from a lot of different backgrounds that are able to take information
I
and
agree.
If we provide
more
it.
than,
Right.
somewhat more than other communities that may not be.
And they
as
want the
highly
info too.
educated
They
and
wanna know what's
highly
going on.
I agree. I think if
That's
anything, the
right.
WhatsApp pages showed us is that.
And they want it to be part of it,
Correct.
part of the transformation.
So if we do our best
Why
to
not?
provide information
It's
and
great.
then give them
Yeah.
choices, we can make good decisions.
Agree.
So-
I mean, that's been, part of the push about, getting, talking about our website.
Mhm.
And how do we push information out to people that people need? Most people in most communities can do things online, right, from home, from the push of a button. You can't necessarily do those things here. We just got a few forms and applications up online,
But even the opposite side of that, on my younger side here, as far as coaching with soccer and baseball and that kind of stuff there, some parents don't do Facebook. Don't really do the
Right.
computer thing, so we have to have both, maybe have some flyers or
Monkey.
mailers
I
here
agree with
to
that.
give out, to provide for the,
Oh, yeah.
I'll call it the outliers.
There's
Whereas
a whole group that completely are like cut off from that.
Correct,
and
so-
by choice.
we have to sadly cover the
Yeah.
whole
By
gamut,
choice.
but we have to do it to get better input from everyone else involved,
Yep.
so.
It's a small percentage.
And
but it
tell
is
them
a-
how they can
and
find this
going
stuff too.
out and going out and,
Correct.
and talking to
Mm.
people, right? There's the old method of communication, talking face to face is still the most trusted.
Yep.
It still is.
Always works for
You
me.
can't. There are those that don't trust the social media
Mhm.
avenue.
Probably a good idea.
Exactly.
All right.
So
Good meeting.
At least I know where we stand. You know, you read them periodically and you forget, right?
right.
And you read them again, oh, I missed that the last time, so it was good to see
And we
again.
don't know what's gonna happen, so we don't know what's gonna happen with the utilities. There's a group at the state that's studying this, and the Assessing Standards Board will have to come up with something on that. We don't know what's going to happen in 2025 when we do a revow. Right, so you're at 72% of your market value. Historically, you just see a shift, right? You might see, but you don't have a shift to go to.
No.
So
Am I understanding?
that's
That's
scaring
right?
me a little bit, to the point of the only shift that you can see is from different types of housing.
Correct. We're very linear. There's very few forks.
Yeah. I
Correct.
mean,
Yeah.
so, but as the assessed value goes up, the
Oh, yeah,
tax
I
rate
used
will
to
come
live in a-
down, so,
I used to
You
live
pay
in
out
a-
the same, but
Yeah.
the ratios have shifted.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So you're expecting a 20-something% tax rate hike?
No.
Oh,
You
okay.
know, evaluation.
That's what I
will
thought
go
that
up,
they were
tax rate down.
evaluating the
Well,
house at 72%
Right.
of
You
what it's
still pay the
worth.
same.
That's what I was hearing.
Yep.
But
And when
you
they
did-
reevaluate,
Exactly.
what?
In Hudson, in Nashua, because we both did it the same year. Manchester did it the year before us. You know, there were people that some different types of housing that some might have had a 10% increase and some might have had a 5% increase. Mobile homes got killed. So it was like 42%. But that's just the nature of the beast. You have to do it. I mean,
It's
how
it's how the town's gonna value our land, you know?
That's right.
How are we gonna put, you know, what's each acre worth? And that's how it's gonna boil down to, so.
So it is, it's a lot in the next probably 4 or 5 years to really, that's why I think we said that this was, even planning had said this was so important to really look at this piece now and figure it out. But we can definitely, Peter had a good point, let's see how much of the 3,600 is different types of land.
Yeah.
Jay may have that data because his predecessor, Jen Sins, do you remember Jennifer?
Yeah.
She did that for us, and they looked at all the, I don't want to say GIS, but it might have been, all the maps, and they looked at every lot to make sure it was, really could be 2 acres, there wasn't water in it or downslope, you know, it was a buildable lot,
Yeah, yeah.
based on if you needed a septic, because that's what we do today, right? So, she did that
It's not 2
data.
acres to build a house now, right? It's like an acre and a,
Is
It's
it an acre and a half? Is it an acre now?
I thought it had to be an acre buildable. Was I have that in my head, I very well could be wrong, that it had to be, the whole acre had to be buildable.
I don't know, I'd have to look up the zoning,
When
to
we
be
did
honest.
Weatherstone, we opened a door
I
though.
don't think,
Because you had to have septic and a backup septic area, right? If in case that one failed. But it doesn't matter. But she did it,
No,
and
but
she
it-
went through an algorithm.
Right.
We started with this, then we took this out, and we went down to here, and then we took this out. She came to something, and she came to the calculations that might actually be in this report about the build-out. It was that
It's
important.
definitely listened to.
right, because if you have an acre of land and, you know, a portion of it is water.
Right, exactly. She took
I
those out.
think that's where that portion isn't counted in the acre.
It's counted, but it's,
Well, I think she was looking
I
at
have that.
buildable lots that you could actually do.
But when you do,
I'm not sure when she was here. Right before Jay came on board is when she was doing it. So
Yeah.
if we can go back, we can look at the minutes, see. Now, she's his level over at Portsmouth, somewhere on the seacoast. She's the director of that regional commission over there. I just don't know
The
what town.
southern west, southwestern.
Somewhere on the seacoast.
No,
I'm not sure which one. She's over there,
Southeast.
over on the east coast
No,
of New Hampshire.
northeastern, right?
South,
She might be south.
south, yeah. They're south of us.
If you Google her, you'll see her there. It's Cynze or Sin.
Yes, 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 yes. That's what it is.
But she really did she asked you a question, looked at this, throw that away, and came down with the number. And then that'd be interesting to see what really got developed already on top of that. Yeah.
Right.
The other thing.
Not much commercial, not much commercial,
on the
right?
commercial side. So, some of the things I do read, which I'm sure you all read too, is not that it maybe affects us, but it affects New Hampshire in general, is a lot of these businesses that are owned, that are family-oriented, the children don't want them when the parents retire.
Oh, yeah.
That's a big problem right now.
Yeah.
So even though we're relying on coming in, it could be short-term. Even
But
if the
we need
business is
to-
flourishing, the kids don't want it.
Yeah.
Typically,
And
a
we're-
family
Well,
business
that's why we
typically
need to
lasts 3
recruit new
generations.
farmers
Generations,
to
yep.
town, too. We definitely need to recruit new farmers into town. It's time.
It's at the land. I don't know what land costs for that, so I don't know. All right, so where do we want to go? Do you want, so I think we did 2 anyway, but let me just read 2. There's only 3 items on the agenda. Review and discussion on assessing data, current development of the town. Do you want to count that as done, or, yeah?
we
Number
covered it.
3 was discuss the next steps for the outreach survey. I think we're going to maybe continue that next
Yeah,
time.
we-
I think
we
we
kinda
took a lot of
started.
data in here.
We talked about it a little bit, so.
Yeah, I think so.
Got a push.
And so let's see, does anybody else have anything else they want to talk about for this?
No, but we need to, next steps.
Next meeting.
Well, I don't know if any more master plans really help us. Do you guys, I'm gonna go back to the list. I don't know if they would add any more value for
Well, we could
that.
also do this, we could do the SWAT while we're on
Oh, the
break, too.
strength-
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Do that.
Sorry. Look at internal threats, external threats, because remember, a threat can be an opportunity later. If it's a threat, what can we do to fix it, right? So just make a box. That's what I tell the students, make a box. SWOT, strength, weakness, opportunity, threat. And then look at what's an internal threat, an external, who's coming. We have outside pressure, right? We have internal issues too, so.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they call it something else in other
I feel like I'm
businesses.
going into a risk
It's it's
management
risk.
meeting.
Oh, yeah. But at the end, I was just thinking that. This really is a very important group because we've got to get it to the next generation. The ones who went 20 years before us did a great job. I don't even think we really have to mess around with
Get
the
an
model
update in
too
there?
much.
How many,
Update figures.
and some of the things people have asked, if you look at, is how many of your children are coming back?
There was an exodus in
Not only
these.
in Litchfield.
Oh, it's everywhere. I can't afford to live where my parents grew up. Norwell.
Right,
Oh, God.
yeah.
That's kind of just the way things are.
But
I think we have actually a fair amount of people who, kids have come back, not right after they've left home, but
We
No,
do have,
take
we
it out.
actually do have a
in their
bunch of kids
30s
that
have
might-
come back,
yeah.
have come back to town, but I mean,
Yeah.
our oldest lives in New Boston. I mean, he would love to live in Litchfield, except his wife has, 50 cousins in New Boston, and it's far cheaper there.
Right.
It's pretty out there too.
It's always going to be economically, can they afford to live here?
Right.
And that's something that, as owners of property, I want my property values to increase. I want them to continue to increase.
Right. But if we can lower that tax bill, it'll offset that a little bit.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Someday we'll sell it.
Someday, maybe. I don't know. I might die there. Could happen tomorrow. Who knows?
Yeah, but you're right, you'll see decreases in your property values when it's all market driven, right? So if people can't afford to buy here because of
Hasn't
the
seemed to be a
tax
problem.
increase,
Jesus, property has more than doubled.
This has been an outlier the last couple of years, though, so
Yes.
don't get used to this.
But I had a nice growth in my property all along. For 25 years I have.
So I built in '08. We all know what happened in '08. I was upside down building my own house as a builder. How that's possible is outside of my mindset here, but it took me 10 years to get back to where I was before. So yeah, it's this last few years are not the norm overall. The average is way skewed.
True.
So give it another 5 years for it to skew itself back down again.
Right. And you talk about,
But for 25 years,
add
that
interest
property
rates
has
on
Overall.
top of that,
Yeah,
and
overall it has grown.
We've
I
only
mean-
had a couple of times in U.S. history where we've had actual dips in values in real estate that sustained.
Yeah.
So it always comes back. It's a matter of
I mean,
how fast.
my very first house I bought in 1986. The interest rates were 12%.
Yeah.
The house was, I mean, what we paid in interest was crazy, and
Right.
we had adjustable.
Right.
My cheap mortgage was a 10% adjustable rate
Mhm.
that we revalued at 9, and we're like so excited to get in
So we
under
did well.
10.
Under
We're like
10.
so excited to get in under 10.
Right.
Big
You know,
win.
so that's the thing. It's like
But also, you only paid $40,000 for the house.
bullshit. I did.
Well, I'm just saying. But now you're paying $600,
Sorry.
$700 for the house, and you're paying 7% interest on it. So it's
Yeah.
it is not cost
I wouldn't want to
effective
be a kid trying to buy a
this
house
stuff.
right now.
It's very hard for them.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's very hard for kids to buy it, but their salaries have increased a great deal too.
Not as much as you think, but
No.
yes. A lot of my clients have a tough time. Before,
At 30 years
well,
old, I couldn't have bought a $700,000 house, and a lot of these kids at 30 years old are out there buying $700,000.
Yeah, but it's sector driven. So it's sector driven in, yes, if you are in medical sales or very high tech or,
If you're doing that right job, it's
yeah.
possible. And you have money
But-
put away too.
right.
Which
But-
a lot of it's gifts, by the way. Parents give their kids $100,000 a down payment. I see a lot.
State of New Hampshire just had to give a 10%, 10%, here you go, 10% increase, every state worker. Had to, because they were that far behind their market value.
Yep,
So, and there's a lot of those.
Correct.
You
Yep.
know, when you,
and those are
not that
correct.
I go into them, but you go into Walmart or McDonald's or any of those, and they've all got the big "we're hiring" signs.
Oh, yeah.
Because you don't have enough.
And that's what creates competition, more than raising the minimum wage or anything else, is competition for people. You know, and that drives rates, and then
And
that
costs.
drives prices, and it just all, you know, we just keep going, you know. But I remember when I moved up here, I mean, I moved up here at 30-something years old, and there were people that were 20 that were affording these houses that we live in now. And it took me till I was 33 to be able to do it, you know, and it's just really interesting to me to look and see now these kids are buying $700,000 homes. And some aren't.
Correct. Some aren't.
Mm-hmm. I know.
Yeah, some are still living at home with their parents.
Oh my
There's a lot-
God,
There's a
yes.
lot of that too.
There's a lot of
A
that
lot of
too.
that.
There is a lot of that too. I was out of the house
Sorry.
at 17 too. So
Right.
Yeah.
never moved back.
I was out at 18, but
Yep, never moved back.
different. I
Totally is.
know a lot of parents that have 20-something
basement.
year olds living because they
I-
can't afford to buy.
Very few first-time buyers that are not under 33,
Yeah.
which is a pretty high number to be a first-time home buyer.
Yeah.
You know, some still live at home. Some only worked a couple years, so it happens.
Saying what goes up must come down. We hope.
Or where everything just keeps going up to support it. You know, it's just,
Yeah, so we're gonna, okay, do we have
Alright.
to make a motion to come out of, we don't have to make a motion to adjourn, anybody?
oh, I make a motion we adjourn.
I second.
There we go.
I'll say aye in favor.
Aye.
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 Our next meeting is going to be,
Yeah, when is our next meeting? The end of the last
September.
Wednesday of the month or something?
Last one of the month, yeah.
Yeah.
probably should have done that before we adjourn.